Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of The Keel Show. I am your host, Alex Keel. Alongside me, the Inside of the Insiders, Tyler Keel.
Hello, everybody.
Today's show is brought to you by Second String Leather Company. New Beast Gear is out. Second String Leather Company, crafted from the crease. We are also brought to you by MyBookie.ag, betting on all sports, winning and getting paid. Using the promo code 12ounce sports and join for free today because you are watching us here live on 12ounce sports on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Zingo TV, channel 761. Sign up for free today on Zingo TV using code 12ounce. That is 12OZOZ for our Canadian listeners. Get involved in the show today using hashtag TKS at The Keel Show on Twitter or Facebook. Get involved in the show. Get involved with the conversation. On today's program, we are going to be talking about big signings in the NHL, big news in regards to all sorts of hockey, big guests. We're going to be talking to some of the higher ups in the hockey media industry, but we are going to be getting to all of that and more. But starting off the show on a high note, our first guest tonight on the show is the radio play-by-play voice of the Vancouver Canucks, former play-by-play of the Vancouver Giants of the Western Hockey League in Canada. He is none other than Brandon Batchelor, everyone.
Woo! Hey, Brandon, how you doing, sir?
Good, guys. How are you?
Oh, we're doing
phenomenal.
Well. Brendan, it's been a crazy playoff for you here. You're broadcasting for the Canucks. You're broadcasting for other games as well during the bubble. But first, we got to talk about the big news today. The retirement of the great Doc Emrick, a big part of the game here, big longtime broadcaster, inspired a lot of us. Brendan, your take on arguably one of the most popular broadcasters of this generation.
Yeah, he's had a pretty remarkable career, hasn't he? If I can get to the end of my time calling hockey and say that I've called games for 47 years and done 22 Stanley Cup finals, then I would be very pleased with that. So, Doc has had a tremendous impact on hockey broadcasting on both sides of the border. There's a lot of young broadcasters and old broadcasters and people at all levels of the game that look up to him. He's done an incredible amount for the sport and for the National Hockey League. And, sad to see him go, but happy for him that I assume it means he'll get to spend some more time with his family after 47 years of work well done.
And of course, Alex, you were a little young for remember the NHL and Fox days, the Glow Puck days.
Correct.
But, he did a lot with the Devils and now with NBC. He's one to, certainly, inspired me in a lot of ways. And I wish we could have Thomas Biondo here for this one because he's always loved Doc Emrick. But yourself, you were in kind of a similar situation with Doc. Doc was calling games from his home outside of Detroit, outside, I believe, St. Clair Shores.
Yep.
And you, Brendan, were actually calling games in a studio. Now, I remember talking with Jack Michaels before the bubble, and I talked to him about calling games in a studio. He said, it's going to be a unique experience. What was your experience calling games in a bubble, even though it's just one province over there in Edmonton?
Yeah, it certainly is unique, and there are a lot of challenges with calling games off a monitor as opposed to being in the arena. The obvious ones being things behind the play that you can't see. A player going to the dressing room with an injury, you're not going to have as good a view of that as if you were sitting high above the ice and you can see everything that's happening in the game. And anybody that's watched hockey knows that, as much as we get great television coverage on both sides of the border for the NHL, there are things you see when you're at a game watching as a fan that, just don't translate to TV because the whole ice surface is never in the shot. So a fight starts behind the play or, a team pulls their goaltender. Those are things that you see when you're there and you don't necessarily see when you're not. So it was a challenge, but it was a unique experience. And, as you alluded to, not only did I get the opportunity to call the Canucks run through to the second round, but also carried on after that and did the conference finals and the Stanley Cup final nationally in Canada on the Sportsnet radio network. So that was a big career opportunity for me. And, the more games we called from the studio and from the television environment, the more I got used to it. But at the same time, I'm looking forward to a day, hopefully sooner rather than later, when we can be back in arenas with full crowds watching the NHL the way we normally would.
Yeah, and you definitely did have a lot of opportunity to call games from the studio there, especially with a 24-team playoff format. Now, I'm going to have to ask you, Brendan, what were your initial thoughts about the playoff format, and did you personally like it? And would you like to see that something that we can move forward with bringing Seattle into the league, filling out a full 32 team, 16 per conference?
Yeah, initially when the playoff format was announced, I liked it because I thought it was, making the best of a tough situation with the pandemic where you didn't have a completed season. Would it have been fair to say that the 9th place team based on points percentage in either conference isn't able to make the playoffs just because the season ended when it did? No, it wouldn't have. And, from a business perspective, it made sense for the NHL to get teams like Montreal and Chicago in, television ratings and radio ratings for a couple of the bigger markets in the league, even if those teams weren't necessarily deserving of the opportunity that they had based on the way they played throughout the regular season. So I liked the format. And then after, having a chance to watch and be a part of the play-in round, I loved it. And I do think that the NHL should consider expanding its playoff format. Now, whether you expand it to as many as 24 teams or whether maybe you add, something akin to like a wild card round like you have in baseball where maybe in each conference the 7th place team plays the 10th place team and the 8th place team plays the 9th place team, and you get, I guess, 4 extra teams into the playoffs, make it a 20-team playoff. That is something that makes sense to me. But I do think that the NHL should seriously look at expanding the playoff format just because, as you allude to, this is a league that's growing. It's going to be up to 32 teams very shortly. And, what drives success in terms of individual markets and teams and then the league overall is teams having success and having an opportunity to play playoff games. So from a business perspective, I think it makes sense to have more teams in the playoffs. And then just from a fan interest and entertainment perspective, because I thought that play-in round was wildly entertaining. And, we see a team like the Chicago Blackhawks, who, as I alluded to, probably didn't deserve to be there, find a way to knock off the Edmonton Oilers. So, I think there's drama and entertainment to be found from expanding the playoff format. And I think it would be good for the league and the growth of the game overall as well.
It's a real good point you make there, because I've had a few other guests on during the playoffs, and they just kept saying it just felt by the end, it felt so exhausting watching hockey every day, 3 times a day. And at first it was like, oh my gosh, so much hockey. Because then again, we've been sitting on our butts for 3 or 4 months, so it makes sense. But you yourself, Brendan, like you said, you called a great run for the Canucks, a very unlikely run, which we'll get to here in a second. You called the Stanley Cup Finals, certainly a career highlight. What was your favorite moment, or moments, I guess you could say, from these playoffs behind the mic?
Yeah, it's tough. There were so many good moments from, overtime winners in both of the conference finals to, send those teams to the Stanley Cup Final. To, Steven Stamkos scoring his goal in his lone appearance, to, Corey Perry scoring a big overtime winner to extend that series. And then I look back at the Canucks run and, as you allude to, a little bit different calling off monitors, but this was my first chance to call NHL playoff games for the team that I grew up following. So, Bo Horvat had a big overtime winner in the series against St. Louis. Chris Tanev scored a series clinching overtime winner to eliminate the Minnesota Wild in the play-in round. So I don't really know if I could pick one, but in terms of a career highlight, I'd probably have to just say the moment where you get to call a team winning the Stanley Cup is something that anybody that aspires to be a broadcaster, wants to be able to do one day. And so to be the guy that had the call of saying, the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup, that's something that not every broadcaster gets to experience in their career. It's possible it's not something I get to experience again in my career. Who knows what the future is going to hold? So that's a moment that I'll cherish in a call that will stay on the demo reel for the rest of my career, I'm sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, talking about, in the bubble and all the play that went along with it in regard to the Canucks organization. Players like Elias Pettersson, JT Miller really came to play, both scoring 18 points over the course of the playoffs. Other than those two individuals, who really stood out for the Canucks roster and really, bringing them to that unfortunate Game 7 loss to the Golden Knights?
Yeah, well, the goaltending was crucial to allow the Canucks to get to that point. And, you're right, Miller and Pettersson both had great offensive playoffs. Bo Horvat stepped up and scored a ton of goals. He was still leading the league in playoff goals after the Stanley Cup final had gotten underway. And he scored some very timely ones as well. But, that's a team that would not have had the success they had, would not have even got to Game 7 against the Vegas Golden Knights without goaltending. Of course, Jacob Markstrom was phenomenal throughout most of the postseason, throughout the regular season as well. He very well could have been nominated for the Vezina Trophy. Obviously, things have changed now that we're into the offseason, and he's no longer a member of the Canucks organization, having signed with the Flames. So there are going to be some changes in the crease going forward, but Markstrom was tremendous. And then, the one story that really emerged as one of the more compelling ones of the entire playoffs, for my money, was Thatcher Demko, who had to come in that series against Vegas when Markstrom went down with an injury and almost single-handedly willed the Canucks into the conference finals with his remarkable play, to the point that, they were in a tied hockey game in the third period of Game 7, despite being vastly outplayed throughout the final few games of that series. And I think Demko's play played a factor in the Canucks' willingness to allow Jacob Markstrom to leave in free agency, because they feel like they've got a young goaltender that can carry them into the future. They obviously went and signed Braden Holtby as well, a former Vezina winner, to try and complement Demko in the crease in what very well could be a shortened and compressed season next year, depending on, when the league gets underway and how they choose to go about trying to play a shortened season or a full season or whatever they're going to be able to do. But, the Canucks historically have not been a great defensive team over the last few years, and that has improved a lot, most notably with the addition of Quinn Hughes and his ability to help them transition the puck out of the defensive zone and play more offensively. But, even with Hughes' addition, this is a team that, you could probably call them an average defensive club at best. And had they not had remarkable goaltending, they would not have gone as far as they did. So, they had great offense. They've got an elite young defenseman in Hughes. They've been able to complement him with the addition of Nate Schmidt via trade from the Vegas Golden Knights. So, you hope, if you're a Canuck fan, that their blue line is improved going into next season. But without the goaltending, they wouldn't have had any shot of being a goal away from the conference finals as they were heading into the third period of Game 7.
Yeah, it's funny because I say this, and I felt like the minority for the longest time, but even when Markstrom was down in Florida, he always looked like he had the potential to be a number one goaltender, a star goaltender in this league, but down in Sunrise, he didn't have the best team in front of him, and for the first couple of years since getting traded to Vancouver, it was kind of the same story. It kind of just started to click this year. He really stepped up, and a lot of people are looking at that contract over there in Calgary with question marks around it. That remains to be foreseen, but he played extremely well. But you do mention Thatcher Demko, and a guy that for me really surprised, because I thought, yeah, this kid's talented. He's a Mike Richter Award winner, great in Boston College in his collegiate days, but I didn't know if he was going to be able to transfer that to the NHL. It took him a while coming up through with Utica, but now he's going to be with Braden Holtby. Is that going to be a kind of ease, more of a 1A, 1B situation with Vancouver, where last year it seemed like Markstrom was the starter and Demko was the definitive number 2? Do you see them kind of more playing a little bit more of a sharing, even though Holtby does have, the longevity, the veteran status? Do you think that, Travis Green kind of looks at these two and say, all right, I can kind of balance them as a team like Dallas or Boston has done in the past couple of seasons?
Yeah, I think it will be more balanced than what we saw with Markstrom and Demko, because as I alluded to, Markstrom had a tremendous couple of seasons the last few years with Vancouver, really has proven that he's an elite starting goaltender in the NHL, albeit a late blooming one, as you allude to. But, Demko is going to be the guy long-term for them. They signed Braden Holtby to a 2-year contract, but he's also a player that they will likely expose in the Seattle expansion draft next offseason. So it's entirely possible that Braden Holtby's stay in Vancouver is just 1 year if the Kraken do elect to choose him from Vancouver in the expansion draft, because that was a big part of the conversation around both Markstrom and Demko coming out of the playoffs. Is they were only going to be able to protect one of those goaltenders, and was it going to be Markstrom that they were going to commit long-term to, or were they going to be willing to hand the reins over to Demko? And with bringing Braden Holtby in, you're kind of in the middle of that conversation, where you're not going to make Demko the de facto number one guy right away, but you still do want to commit to him long-term. And so I expect him to see some increased starts. As I alluded to earlier as well, I think the fact that it'll be a more compressed schedule, we expect, will mean that most teams will have to play their backup goaltender more than they would normally. And, Canucks general manager Jim Benning has made no bones about the fact that he feels with what will likely be a very busy season with a lot of games and lots of back-to-back situations and 3 games in 4 nights, etc., that his team needed to have 2 goaltenders that they feel can win them games. And so that's the way they feel about Braden Holtby and Thatcher Demko. All of that said, Travis Green has been a guy that, if it gets down to the nitty-gritty and they're pushing towards a playoff spot and they need to win games to secure their berth in the postseason, he's a guy that will start the goaltender he feels gives him the best chance on more nights than not to win hockey games. So whether that means Demko or whether that means Holtby remains to be seen. But I guess that's my long-winded way of saying that I do expect it to be more of a tandem-based, starting situation in the Vancouver crease going forward.
Hey, made sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, just looking at the trend of how things have been going in the past few years, it has been putting a premium on, having 2 goalies that can share the crease. And, it's not necessarily that you have a, one starter. It's more of like a 1A, 1B kind of thing where you share the crease, especially with the very tight schedule that we're going to be looking at next year, especially with that early 2021 start potentially. But you obviously have to make sure that you have a good amount of personnel in front of the goaltenders to make sure that you're obviously scoring goals and making their life a little bit easier,
Trying to.
But you did mention Nate Schmidt earlier. What kind of impact do you think that he really brings to this team, and what do you think that moving forward, bringing in players like Nate Schmidt can really bring to the organization as a whole?
Yeah, so Schmidt essentially comes in as a replacement for Chris Tanev in the Canucks' top 4. Tanev played a lot with Quinn Hughes this past season. He's been a steady, reliable defensive defenseman for them for his entire career. He blocks a lot of shots. He kills penalties. And he's been incredibly valuable for them in that role, although he hasn't brought a lot of offense and he's been very injury-riddled. So Nate Schmidt comes in, and that's a completely different kind of defenseman. I would argue it's an upgrade, but, it's going to change the complexion of the Canucks blue line, because where they had a shot-blocking, stay-at-home, solid defenseman in Chris Tanev, now they have a play-driving, offensive, ability to transition the puck kind of defenseman in Nate Schmidt. And it seems like the Canucks want to trend more towards being that kind of team, especially when you look at the young players they have, most notably Elias Pettersson and then Quinn Hughes on the back end. And, we've been able to see the impact that Hughes was able to have in just his rookie season in helping the Canucks get out of their own zone, spend more time in the opposition's end, and create more offense from the defense. And, in keeping with that, Nate Schmidt is another defenseman that can drive play like that too. So I think that acquisition is an upgrade for the Canucks back end. It's going to change the way they play, because they are going to be more aggressive in transition and likely more offensive as a result. And I would imagine that, we could see the organization look to acquire players of a similar ilk going forward, because that's the way Travis Green wants to play. And that does seem to be the way that teams that have success in the modern NHL play. The days of, a rugged, steady back end like what we would have seen with the New Jersey Devils in the 90s with, Scott Stevens and Scott Niedermayer and Ken Danico and that whole group. And not to take anything away from some of those guys, because certainly they had Hall of Fame careers, but we all know about the trap with the New Jersey Devils and how they shut things down defensively and, made it really hard on their opponents to score and to have success. But that was also in an era where, clutching and grabbing and hooking and holding were allowed. Now we see that in the modern NHL, there are so many more penalties called than there were 15 or 20 years ago, and skilled players that can play with speed and can be effective offensively, even if they're defensemen, is the way that the NHL is going. So that, to me, feels like the model the Canucks are trying to build their team towards as they look to try and open a window of contention here in the next few years. And Nate Schmidt is a player that fits into that conversation.
And the nice part, too, because there's so much stock, Brendan, nowadays put in the right-handed defenseman or a guy that can play on the right side. Nate Schmidt can do both, and that's really important. Despite being a left-handed shot, he does have the ability to play on the right side. So realistically, Travis Green could throw in this dynamic, speedy, fast, creative duo of Quinn Hughes and Nate Schmidt on a power play if you wanted to, and that just sounds terrifying to me. But the Canucks, you saw the glimpses of a possible, real solid playoff contender. But obviously, we've seen with so many different teams, and obviously Montreal and Chicago got lucky, so we don't even know if they'll be a playoff contender next season. What do the Canucks need to either add or simply just kind of change within the team to order to become a team that stays atop that Pacific Division? Now, obviously, it was kind of wild last season. Arizona led, Vancouver led, Edmonton led. Everyone except for Los Angeles, I think, had the lead at one point in that division. What do the Canucks need to do to be a solidified playoff contender?
Yeah, well, the interesting part about that conversation, too, is that, we've talked about everything in the context of the Pacific Division up to this point, but there's a real chance that things are realigned and that there's a Canadian division next season just because of potential issues crossing the border between the U.S. and Canada and trying to get a season done in the NHL, having, a pretty unique situation to any of the other major pro sports leagues in terms of the number of teams they have in Canada, as opposed to, say, the Blue Jays in Major League Baseball or something like that. So we may have to start talking about the Canucks in comparison to Calgary and Edmonton, who are already in the Pacific Division, but then also to teams like Toronto and Montreal and Ottawa, at least in the shorter term. But in terms of improving and trying to grow to be a contender, the biggest thing that I noticed, and, I try to compare the Canucks to a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning, who just won the Stanley Cup, because ideally, if you're the Canucks and you want to get to a point where you're contending for a Stanley Cup, you have to look at what has led other teams to be successful. And the biggest difference for me between the Canucks and a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning is depth that can drive play. And right now the Canucks, and it's a hot topic of conversation in Vancouver almost daily on sports radio, they've committed some big contracts to players who play further down their lineup and are not play-driving players. Louis Eriksson makes $6 million a year and has really taken a step back in terms of his offensive production, which is to say he doesn't really provide offensive production at all. Jay Beagle is a guy that they signed in pre-agency after he won the Stanley Cup with the Washington Capitals, and he's important for them in terms of playing a shutdown role and killing penalties and winning faceoffs, but he's not a guy that's going to provide you offense. And, on their third line in particular, Adam Gaudette is a young centerman that is still growing into the NHL and may even end up projecting as a winger at the NHL level. Jake Virtanen's a young player that's been relatively inconsistent, even though he scored 18 goals last year. And, you compare sort of that bottom six forward mix, what you saw from a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning, who had a third line that is as good as any I've seen in the NHL in recent years, with a couple of guys that they added at the trade deadline in Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman, and then Yanni Gourde playing down the middle. And that line, was incredibly effective for Tampa Bay. It was a big part of why they won the Stanley Cup. Of course, you're going to give credit to the big names like Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov. But when you look at big names and elite talent, the Canucks have some of those pieces, right? They've got a young Elias Pettersson. They've got a young Quinn Hughes. Those are guys that are going to grow into some of the best players in the league if they're not already in that conversation. Where the Canucks need to improve the most is supplementing those guys with players around them that can help them drive play and create offense and win games. Because if you look at the underlying numbers right now, the Canucks are incredibly effective when their top players are on the ice, and then they're incredibly ineffective when their top players are off the ice. So, as with any championship team, you'll see that they have elite stars and elite players both up front and on the back end, and certainly in goal. But in order to, change the conversation around your team from a club that, may not have even made the playoffs last year if the season had finished as normal and went on somewhat of a Cinderella run where they almost knocked off the Vegas Golden Knights and went to the conference final. If you want to change the narrative around your team from being sort of an underdog to being an elite contender, you have to have players throughout your lineup that can contribute, and that's what the Canucks don't have right now.
I'll say it once and I'll say it again. The one thing I did appreciate about this entire, different format of doing the playoffs and obviously trying to do everything through the different rules and regulations and finally settling on the two hub cities in Toronto and in Edmonton, finally with the Stanley Cup final being in Edmonton, was the fact that we were able, as Eastern hockey viewers, to watch more Western hockey teams, when it comes to Vancouver and when it comes to Calgary and all those teams that, you hear so much about their talent and then you don't want to stay up until 10 p.m. to watch the game start. So you end up watching when you watch the highlights in the morning. But definitely
10 p.m. is puck drop, let alone about 2 a.m.
Correct. But so being able to watch Western teams and then obviously being able to talk to wonderful individuals like yourself, Brendan, to just be able to be enlightened about the Vancouver organization hockey out west. At Batch Hockey, Twitter and Instagram is the best way to watch or at least hear what this guy has to say during the off season. Otherwise, make sure to check him out with Vancouver Canucks hockey next season. Brendan, it's been a pleasure to talk with you today, and we'll definitely be talking to you sooner rather than later about the Canucks and then what the NHL has to hold.
Yep, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. You have a good one now.
That was Brendan Batchelor, and that was a fun guy. And there's a lot of guys that I like to bring on. That's why I wore my Canucks shirt. I think it's the first time I wore my Vancouver Canucks shirt since I got this. This I got from my sister-in-law.
Hey, if you don't want it, I'll take it.
I love this shirt. I want a shirt from every team, Alex. We've gone over this. Listen, if you didn't want that Shark shirt you're gonna be wearing showing off later, I would definitely be wearing it because it's every team, which would include, Alex. I would want a Kansas City Scout shirt. I would want a Colorado Rockies shirt.
Why don't you just get a New Jersey Devil shirt?
I'd get that too. I don't know if I would get the black and red or the red and green though.
So you mean like every team?
I mean like Hamilton Tigers, Montreal Wanderers, the Maroons, which is pretty much just a Mystery Alaska shirt. But I
am hearing your wife coming saying no to that.
Kelly, the Colorado Rockies, the old NHL team. She's asking why I didn't get a Rocky shirt while we were in Denver. It's the old. Because they didn't have a Kadri shirt. Remember? No. Okay. Did I tell the story yet on the show? Did I tell the story how there was not a Nazem Kadri shirt when we went to Denver?
Oh, boy.
This one does not because your sister thought like there's something Canadian. And I'm like, well, this is technically Canadian, this Vancouver Canucks shirt. She was looking for something Canada, and she just saw that. It's like, that's hockey. So
it is hockey, and it is Canadian, yes.
I won't.
Moral of the story, I don't think at the very least your wife is going to allow for your wardrobe to be chock full of hockey T-shirts.
You should have been here last week when her and Cooper just almost tore apart my grubby shirts. Unless Kelly actually shops for me. I'm repeating just so they can hear.
You are not getting a T-shirt or a jersey or whatever of every single team. Unless I'm allowed to. Unless Alex in a
so the rule is if I want all the hockey shirts that I want, she gets to determine what stays out of the wardrobe I have.
And get new stuff.
I need Darren Ferris. I need Mitch Marner's agent for this.
Darren Ferris.
I need
You don't need absolutely not.
We'll have someone holding the camcorder. I need someone. I need an agent now. I need an agent for negotiations.
You don't need an agent because here's another thing.
For these negotiations.
Here's another thing too. How are you going to fit all of those clothes into your wardrobe?
I don't care about the dresser. Heck, if she gets rid of all those grubby shirts, with the exception of a couple. The Kiss shirts would stay.
What I'm saying is if you want all of those shirts, I mean, every single one, you're going to need to get a 4-stall garage with
only 30. I only need Vancouver. I have
You
The
said
Leafs?
everybody. You said Hamilton Sound Tigers. You said
No,
everybody.
the Sound that's Bridgeport Sound
Whatever.
Tigers. I'm not going full AHL. I thought about it.
You said everybody.
But here's the
so,
thing, AHL teams move around too much. But, Dad, I'm not whipped. This is me with negotiate. Dad, you want to be my agent? You want to be my agent for this argument of how I can't get rid of shirts up there? I'm keeping the Kiss shirts, keeping the Ferris shirt, keeping my Terry Sawchuk Leaf shirt.
I see a Toronto Maple Leaf shirt that you need to retire.
No, that
but
Terry
that's just saying.
I'll retire. It'll go up on a frame somewhere. My Terry Sawchuk
frame? You're gonna frame an old T-shirt that has no sentimental value.
That's my first Leaf shirt I ever got. That was my birthday
goodness.
gift one year. That and the sweater, the Terry Sawchuk sweater that I still have.
Okay.
I still wear it sucker proudly. Thanks, Dad.
Okay. Let's get on to some actual news and stuff that really matters in life. Let's go on to some amateur hockey, specifically at the collegiate level.
Speaking of Ferris State.
NCAA is returning hockey returning to play.
Yes.
Is what they're going to be talking. Tyler, if you want to talk about that real quick?
I can take this one because I literally wrote an article for it yesterday for the hockey writers. Yes, I wrote again, guys. I had actual time yesterday. So there's been a lot of news with college hockey coming back, and we talked about it a little bit with Harrison. He didn't want to reveal too much, and I understand that. But now there's just so much getting revealed in the past week. So earlier this month, the Big Ten announced their initiative to play. They are looking to play in November, starting next month, mid-November, about 2 weeks before American Thanksgiving, which is awesome because, once again, that's just, hey, because there's a lot of teams practicing right now, and they're training, so they're getting in shape. So it's not like it's going to be, like, no pun intended, a cold open. They're going to be ready to go come game one. Now, yes, there'll be no exhibition games, but at least they'll be in shape, per se. So they'll be looking for
They'll
November.
be in shape already.
November the 13th, they'll be playing 24 games against only conference opponents. Now, here's the kicker, Alex. If you do the math, because you think there's 6 teams in the conference, how can they play 24 games against only those teams? Because there's only 5 others.
4.
No, there's 6. Yeah.
You play 4 games each.
But that'd be only 20 games. Where do you get the last 4? They're adding Arizona State to the schedule. Just because Arizona State's an independent team, and here's the kicker. They don't have to travel down to Arizona State. They wouldn't be going down to Tempe. Arizona State, they would play all of their games in Big Ten arenas. Now, obviously, the schedule's not been put out yet, but the initiative is there. Yes, if you're complaining about the money for travel, Alex, this is Arizona State. This is a big-time Division I school.
Now, hold on.
This is not like a WCHA.
I have a question.
Answer.
Where is Notre Dame in all of this?
Notre Dame is in the Big Ten. They're in the Big Ten conference.
They are in the Big Ten when
Yes.
it comes to hockey?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and they've dominated.
Wait, who's in the Big Ten total?
So Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and now they're adding Arizona State as an honorary member this year. Now, this is big because if it works, I'm not sure, but if it works, this may be Arizona State's in. This now, in theory, this may be their in to go into a conference. Now, this could be just a ploy for them to just get games on the schedule because
Why don't you have a team like Western play?
Western is in the NCHC. That's why. Which they announced last Friday that they'll be coming back, but they're doing it. Do I want to go to NCHC or Atlantic Hockey next?
NCHC first. We're already talking about
We're
it.
doing NCHC. So they are taking they're taking a play out of the NHL's playbook here. They're going into a hub for the first part of their schedule. Now this is a 10-team conference. Yes,
8-team conference.
8-team conference. Sorry, I read that right. 8-team conference. So, but they're separating them into 4 divisions. 4 divisions. 2 teams, 4 team divisions.
2 4-team divisions.
Yes.
East and West.
They're playing 6 games against each opponent, against their divisional opponent. So that's 18 games there. And they're playing 2 against the other 4 teams, so 8 games. But what they're doing is they're separating the schedule into 2 parts. In December, 3 weeks, games during the week, 3 hard weeks in a hub down in Nebraska, Omaha, Baxter Arena. That's where they'll be playing. Now, whether the location's great or not, I'm not sure. They look like they have great facilities from what I've heard from other people, from other teams. So that's why they chose Nebraska, Omaha. They're going to play all of their cross-divisional games there to limit travel, and I think they said 2 of the games against their own division. So they'll play 10 games each team will, and then after the holiday break, after the new year, they'll play within their division for the rest of the playoffs, and hopefully they end
outside of the bubble.
Outside of the bubble, in their own rinks, but less travel.
Okay.
So Western will have to travel all the way across to North Dakota and whatnot. So it's a good way to set up their schedule. The Atlantic Hockey Association, They announced on Thursday that they'll be starting same time in the Big Ten, the weekend of the 13th and 14th next month. 24 conference games, but they'll be allowed to play 28 if they want to schedule games against, say, Hockey East or ECAC, because that's not as much travel. But the Atlantic Hockey is still trying to limit travel as much as they can. They have 11 teams, but they're splitting 2 5-division teams. Air Force Academy out in Colorado, they are the outlier. They will play each team. I wrote this yesterday. I should remember this. They'll be playing each team twice and 4 games, Alex, ready for this, against Long Island University. Long Island University, they're not going to be part of the conference standings, but they'll be involved in the conference schedule. Long Island and Air Force will play each other 4 times, and Long Island will play each team, the other 10 teams, Alex, twice. So they'll get 24 games. Because remember, when Long Island was announced, there was a lot of skepticism on whether or not they'd be able to get close to a full schedule. This ensures that. And
so they're going to be similar to something along the lines of Sioux College for ACHA.
At first, yes.
At first, where
they
are just going to be playing games, getting exposure, playing against other teams. Okay.
So
I can understand why for that. So wait, just to go back a quick second, because I don't know if you mentioned it or not, is that applying still to, is that same kind of premise applying to Arizona State, or is Arizona State actually like in conference, like they count towards it?
They are, it sounds like they're just playing games. They'll count, I guess the way it works is conference schedule. They haven't released the definitive details yet, but they're involved in the conference schedule. Now, I have not gotten word if it's going to count for conference points or conference standings, but it may. When I read it, it was very, like I said, it's very vague. It's an announcement that they're going to have Arizona State in, how many games they're going to play. They didn't necessarily distinguish the fact if they're going to be playing games that will actually count towards conference standings. But so it's great that Long Island's get there. The remaining 3, Hockey East, WCHA, and ECAC, I'm hearing that they're all very close. Hockey East, haven't heard a lot of there, but all I'm hearing is that they're close. That's what I'm hearing of them. The WCHA, they sound like they're pretty close because, according to an interview that was Bowling Green's head coach Ty Eigner with College Hockey News, said that the schedule with both non-conference and conference games will be released this coming Friday. That, like I said, that was in an article with College Hockey News. ECAC says they're close and they're going to be adopting, similar to Atlantic Hockey and NCHC, since they have bigger divisions, they're going to have a 2-division format. I expect the same with Hockey East, even though Hockey East, I think, is a little bit tighter in terms of geography, so they won't have to worry about traveling too much. But for me, it's just good. I think just the fact that they're making the strides to getting back to playing. Then Yale got smacked with COVID. And I mean smacked. Let's put it this way, folks. There are 19 kids that are currently rostered with the Yale Bulldogs, which is a member of the ECAC. 18 of them, Alex, 18 tested positive. It was Thursday. It was announced there were 6 players, and then it quickly spread to 18 the next day. So, and I was just like, man, this. And I talked to a couple people, and everyone's like, I'm like, are we? Is there going to be games? And they're like, well, we're going to try, because you see it with NFL. There was an afternoon Monday game today. I think it was Kansas City, Tennessee? I forgot who played today.
You're asking the wrong person, dude.
There was a football game. I think it may be still going on
Turn
right
that into
now.
a T-shirt, Ty.
I know, that's what
You're asking the wrong dude.
I'm asking the wrong guy with N and G, because you draw it out a little bit. But anyways,
wrong dude.
So what? And and the same thing with Major League Baseball. The Cardinals had to set out a week. I think they're going to try to find a way to push through it.
Dude, it'll be fine. Honestly.
What?
Yeah, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to keep saying it. Fine.
Fine.
Four-letter word.
Four-letter word starts with F.
Listen, yes, coronavirus, deadly. It can do a lot of damage. We've seen multiple colleges across the nation shut down due to COVID reasons.
Yep.
There have been a lot of athletic programs that have shut down due to COVID reasons. We at Davenport University have had that same problem as well. We've had to shut down all of athletics, for 2 weeks because we had, individuals from athletic teams that had roommates with who and whatever. They had to shut down. They had to quarantine. We did all that. That's just how things are right now.
Yep.
I have no doubt in my mind that Yale will bounce back from this. They'll probably be able to get a season going. They just won't be able to have as much practice time, which can be a disadvantage, yes, but that's just how it's going to have to be. You know, if you want to be competitive in this day and age, especially in collegiate sports, for one, you're just going to have to make sure that you have your entire program completely under lock and key, under control, which is very hard to do, especially with kids going to in-seat classes and stuff like that, which is you can try to do as much as you can, but it's not entirely possible.
Well,
you just have to do your due diligence and do the best you can. Wash your hands, put on the mask, all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's the thing, because the team came out and said that they were, not anyone specific, but someone from the team came out and said that they were practicing all the safety protocols. And we've learned, because
that's what happens. That's just what happens. Sometimes you get the bad bug, and since if one person has it, then two people can have it.
Amount of coffee.
4, 5, whatever. You get the picture.
Yeah.
You can do everything you possibly can, but it's not a full safeguard. It's like birth control, Ty. You could take the pill, you could use whatever. It's not full 100%.
IUDs.
But
anyways,
I'm sure they'll do fine. Did you have anything else, or should I move on to
I think
the
we're
sites?
good. I know one of our teams has a schedule ready to go. One of our teams at Davenport does. I'm not going to say which one yet because, well,
we're not going to jinx that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not. That's why everyone's like, why haven't you posted it yet? Because you want me to write PPD next to all those? I don't want to, but I can. Shoot, that's what. Heck, go to our fall football schedule at Davenport. Any of our fall sports postponed because they posted the schedules, and even though all signs were saying we were not going to play, but
they did.
What are you going to do when you're the low on the totem pole of the athletic department? Who said that? I didn't say that. Paul doesn't watch this show, right?
Paul?
Yeah, I don't think he does he?
He's watched like once or twice.
Oh, which ones?
That's a good question.
Let's say, was the second one the bad one?
Should I do the sites real quick?
The regional sites for Frozen Forest? Not really, because the only thing...
Did you report on it?
I did not write a report on it.
All right, well...
I could have, but it was so late.
Real quick then, since we're talking about NCAA hockey...
Just do the Frozen Four sites, because I just want to complain the fact that Detroit didn't get it.
Yes, you're fine. I got it. So, the Frozen Four sites for 2022 through 2026... national men's, women's tournaments were announced. This was by the USCHO staff on October 14th of 2020.
Last week.
Yes. So the Frozen Four in 2022 will be played at TD Garden in Boston. 2023 is going to be at Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida. 2024 is going to be played at the Xcel Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. 2025 is going to be played at the Enterprise Center in St. Louis. 2026 will be played at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, home of the Vegas Golden Knights.
And I just said okay, but by the way, I didn't say gay. I just want to make that clear. I said gay, and I realized I said it. I'm like, oh, that probably sounded different.
Yeah, okay. There you go. You're good.
Well, anyway.
I understand that you're upset that Detroit didn't get it, but let's think, how many times in the past 20 years has Detroit gotten the Frozen Four?
1986. Or 1987, excuse me. 1987.
That was the only time that Detroit has gotten the Frozen Four.
That was the last time they've gotten the Frozen Four. They have not had it since. And I was so excited because this was going to be the year. I was going to go for the hockey writers. Harrison Watt, our good buddy Harrison Watt, longtime viewer, 8-timers club here on the Keela Show. He was going to be there as well. It was going to be a big event. It was going to be awesome for us. I was going to push Butchie out of the booth, and I was going to go in and call the games in Melrose myself. It may have been better. I don't know. But, it was going to be a big event. It was going to be great for, the new arena, Little Caesars Arena. And I'm like, okay, I get it, COVID. I'm like, well, I'm going to push Pittsburgh back.
It's not new. It's newer now.
Well, newer, you're right. But
it's the newest.
But the fact that the reason why they didn't come back to Detroit is because the Joe was so deteriorated for the longest time. Now they have this beautiful state-of-the-art arena. It'd be a great event. Lots to do in Detroit nowadays. It's a lot safer, if you ask me personally, at least by the arena and all the hotels around the arena.
Yes.
And so I'm like, okay, this would be great. So I'm like, okay, fine. They'll give Pittsburgh next season because that's where it's going to be at PPG Paints Arena next year in Pittsburgh for the Frozen Four, if they have it, of course, at this point. Right. I don't know. But I'm like, all right, 2022. There was whispers to me Boston already. I'm like, okay, fine. Then the next cycle, give it to Detroit. Give one to Detroit because they got gypped, Alex. It's not their fault that COVID happened. That's why I'm just like, why didn't they get this opportunity? They didn't get the chance to do it, and I'm just like, I'm a little butthurt, Alex.
Well, why are you butthurt?
Because I was going to go. And I was excited to go when it came back around.
Tough nuts.
I wanted
2027, Detroit will get it. You want to know why?
because they hear me complain enough. I'll complain for the next 5
They're
years.
not going to ship everyone down.
I'm going to
That's
complain
why.
for the next 6 years.
You want to know why you can't just supplement Detroit into one of these?
Well, these weren't determined yet, Alex. The decision was made last week. They could have said, hey, Vegas, can we push you back 1 year? And because Tampa's had all of those locations, except for Vegas, have already had it.
But you don't think that they've been talking about this beforehand, though?
I know, but they should have realized, hey, Detroit was going to be the team, and they missed their chance because of
Detroit was going to be the location, not the team type.
What do you mean?
You said team. You said Detroit.
Detroit was going to be
team.
the location. Excuse me. Yes, and it was going to be. It's a great atmosphere. It's a great rink. It's terrifying if you're at the top. I mean, shoot, you think it's terrifying sitting in the bleachers, Alex, in the top in that top.
Yes,
row?
I
It's
understand.
even worse in the press box because you're literally hanging over. If you hocked a loogie, Alex, you'd hit the linesman.
You're fine.
I'm just saying. But anyways,
But no,
so,
they're not going to do that because copyright is a lot of money.
that's true.
And all of these, you know for darn certain that all of these sites, the organizations that are going to be running the tournament, the Frozen Four tournament, the reason why they may have announced it to make sure that everything was set in stone, but everybody else, I'm pretty sure they gotten all their copyrights and all the signage already taken care of far beforehand, because that's how that works.
Right.
That's how tournaments, you look at any big sort of event, it's usually done at least 2 years out. At least 2 years out. So,
But that's why I'm just like, meh.
so that's why the 22 one was announced
Well, Boston.
last week in Boston. So
Well, that was made official. There was already pretty darn certain talk that it was going to be in Boston already. So that was almost.
sure.
That's why I thought 2023 would have been Detroit's year. But apparently, we get to go back down to Florida.
I mean, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because we're just totally going to go to Florida. You're right, Alex.
I'm
we
going
should
to go to
stop
Florida
everything
for
else
one
we're
reason
doing.
or another.
We're going to go down to Florida. Well, hopefully by
Why don't I just go to Florida right now?
Alex, I don't want to see you in a hospital.
You don't want to see me in a hospital?
If this thing isn't calmed down by 2022, Alex, you're right. We're not going down to Florida.
Oh, I'll go down to
You're
Florida.
right. Or 2023. If it's not solved by 2023, you're right. Just ship it up to Detroit.
No, I'll go down to Florida.
Take away from Tampa. Do what we did with Steve Yzerman. Just take him away from Tampa. Put him in Detroit. We'll take away the Frozen Four.
So, moving on here.
We can skip the Canadian division.
Do you want to stop it? Okay.
Yeah, because we got so much to get to. We got Dan Rusanowsky coming up here in about 10 minutes, or a little over 10 minutes now. Let's do the injuries because the Stamkos one is it's a crazy story now. Because you heard did you see the post on what he said what happened on that goal?
No.
All right, we'll get to it. Let's quickly mention the first few injuries because and that's why I said notable surgeries because there's a lot of surgeries going on right now with some big names. So take it away there, Alex.
Okay, injuries. Tim Stutzel's got
Stutzel. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you. I did that hard on you, didn't I? Alex.
Tim.
It's Stutzel.
Stutzel.
Strudel.
Broken hand. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, which doesn't really matter.
Because especially since we won't play in Ottawa this year. But everyone's like, oh my gosh. Listen, guys, it's not a knee. It's not an ankle. It's awful.
Going off to Boston.
Speaking of COVID cases.
Oh, my goodness. Shut up.
I'm just saying Davenport's got another one.
Yes, that's how every day we are going to get an email, and I'm going to get 2 of them.
It's great. I get at least I get
how
to
that
know.
works.
I know. It just makes me chuckle just a
For
little.
all I know, I have COVID. But you know what?
I'm about to say I've said the same thing, but I don't say it out loud in public though. I don't want to scare people.
If you
We can say it here because
if you want to scare people in public, just cough.
Oh, trust me. If I have a dry throat, I get nervous. I start. Well, yeah, because you start like. I'm sorry, I gotta clear my throat. They're like, what? You got the coat. You got the vit. You got the Rona.
Got the Rona.
All right,
Big Rona.
so Tim Stutz's out 6 to 8 weeks. He'll be fine.
Yes, moving on to Boston, home of the Bruins.
The Boston Bruins.
Marchand, McAvoy, and Pasternak, a.k.a. Pasta.
I write Pasta just to see if I actually say his name other than just Pasta.
They're all due to have surgery.
I think they may already have,
Pasternak,
but yeah.
Pasternak is due to have surgery on a torn labrum in mid-March, or that's when he's expected to be back. Marchand is going to be having sports hernia surgery. He's expected to get back by February, mid-February. McAvoy has an arthroscopic
arthroscopic knee surgery.
okay, that's an R. Yep, not an N. arthroscopic knee surgery.
Check them glasses there, bud.
Oh, shush. I just got a smudge on them.
Yeah,
he should be ready by training camp. So that's definitely a big hit for Boston, especially with a very condensed schedule. But I'm sure
Bergeron's sitting in the back. See what it's like, boys? I played Game 6 of the 13 finals with half a lung.
No, Bergeron's probably asking, where's Sean Thornton? I need some help.
Need some protection here. Hey, shoot. They're going to
Marchand and Passer are done. So, I mean, you're going to have to basically go at least a month.
Yeah, who's Bergeron going to play with?
A month and a half. We'll have to find out. We'll see how training camp goes. Finally, the big one that you want to talk about, and obviously I guess I don't care enough to know about, is the Stamkos core muscle surgery. It said that he should be ready to go by the season start this upcoming year. He underwent core muscle surgery on March 2nd, and then suffered an overcompensation injury.
So,
Tyler,
so
you wanna inform the people and me what happened?
What happened? So I guess really what happened was in February, he was diagnosed with a sports hernia.
Okay,
similar to what Brad Marchand, but like a full just apparently his whole middle. Because here's the thing with always been Stamkos' problem, it's been lower body. It's never shoulders, never elbows. It's always knees, something below the belt.
Sure.
So the hernia was slightly above the belt. So, hey, maybe it's a little more. I don't know if it's any better. But then again, having a hernia is probably the worst thing you can have as an athlete of any sport, really. So when he went down, it's like, okay, how long is he going to be out? They said, okay, he'll be back maybe by the playoffs. And then so now with the extended playoff, like, okay, he'll be fine. But during training, he had, and sometimes this happens when you're trying to get back into shape and you're rehabbing so hard, you end up overcompensating your body, and that's when he got the second injury, which is why he didn't play for the first 3 rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs or the round robin. So watching that, I was like, man, this is actually painful to watch because, and I remember we talked about it with a lot of, with Justin Godfrey. I'm like, will we see Steven Stamkos? Will he make an impact? Comes back, scores a goal.
And then done.
Because here it is, Alex. During that play, he heard a pop. When he was making that move to stride on the outside to go get the puck, he heard something pop. But he had so much adrenaline going, Alex. That's why after he scored, I'm like, man, he must have been hurting before that because that kind of speed from Stamkos, it wasn't the same kind of speed we saw from before all of his injuries, but that kind of get up, it looked like that was Stamkos at his normal form. But then you find out, when you get a chance to rush the puck up the side,
what happened?
He scored. But
that's
where he felt a pop around his hip area, and that's where they had to get core surgery again because something just went pop down around the lower abdomen, around the hip flexor area, and that is why he did not play the rest of the series. Now, yes, he did party with the guys or whatever because you can do some stuff but you can't play hockey at a high level without
take a whole lot to drink beer, boys.
Does not take a whole lot to drink beer. I've played with awful hips, and I can tell you right now, I could barely do that at the senior A level, let alone the Stanley Cup Finals in the NHL, Alex.
Sure.
So the fact that no matter what, and he still tried to play after. That's the thing. He still wanted to play, but he realized it would be worse for the team for him to play. So that's why he didn't play in Game 4, 5, or 6. And that's the kind of leadership, because Stamkos could have played the card, I'm like, I'm the captain of this team, I want to be part of this, play me. He could have done that. But he realized that it would have been a detriment to the team, and it would not have helped the team. It would have hindered the team. Tyler Johnson in 2015. Ben Bishop.
He should have played.
Ben Bishop. I think he
should have played.
Well, because I will say this, Dallas.
The only reason why I say that is because I wanted Dallas to win.
Yeah, of course you did. Well, Dallas looked so defeated in that game anyway, so maybe you could have put him on the fourth line, play him 2 minutes, and call it good. But just the way everything was working out.
I'd put him on for one shift.
For one shift?
That'd be it. Ash shift. You played in the game where the Lightning won the cup. That's it. That's all you get.
Well, I wanted him dressed, but he was already dressed, and you could tell by the way the guys reacted with him. Who cared? They didn't care if he played or not. The fact that he was there, they knew what he'd been through.
All I'm saying is this. The one problem I have is why the heck was he in full gear?
That's
for the photos?
That's what everyone does. That's what every player does. So with all the Doc Emrick tributes today, one of them was the 2008 Cup Final when Chris Osgood made the save on Crosby at the end, pushed the puck off to the side as the buzzer expired. You see guys like Kyle Quincy and Jonathan. Well, Erickson. I don't know if Erickson was playing in the lineup that night, but Jimmy Howard didn't have his chest protector on. He had his leg pads on and everything. Those guys all came out in pads. And I guarantee that's all because they saw Peter Forsberg in 2001 after he blew out his spleen. He just came out in his sweater and it looked really awkward. So they're like, hey, let's just dress up. Let's all just put our gear on, whatever, and stuff like that. We'll call it good.
I mean, Stamkos came in street clothes and a sweater for the acceptance of the Prince of Wales trophy.
That's different. No one cares about that. You're not supposed to touch the thing anyways.
Yet they did.
No, Dallas did.
No.
I don't.
Tampa did.
Did they?
Yes. Dallas didn't. You got it mixed up, son.
Maybe Steve Yzerman has that thing where he's just like the Steve Yzerman concept where he's like, oh, I got it and grab it. Because that's the one thing, too, because when Steve Yzerman picked up in 95, everyone's like, oh, my gosh, he can never touch it because he touched it then. But then 97, 98, and 2002, he's like, oh, we got this thing. Look at this, guys. Cool, yeah. But, like, so I will say this. The touching of the conference trophy is interesting because, I mean, it is odd.
Obviously, it doesn't matter.
Do you want to before we go to break, a quick story from the Detroit Tigers' Dan Dickerson about Doc Emrick?
Sure, we'll go with that, and then we'll take it to commercial.
Nope, it's a very long thread. Never mind.
Never mind.
See,
this is why you're not allowed to go on Twitter while we're on the show.
It was about
you just be going, you want to see something? Wait, never mind. Up. Oh, by the way, here's a funny meme of Shaquille O'Neal that's been like 3 months old. It's do you see this? Do you see this? Yes,
what about Zdeno Chara getting shot?
Oh my god!
still thinking about that. That makes me laugh. Zdeno Chara going down like he was shot. Well, he was literally shot, but yeah, no,
he wasn't literally shot.
He was shot with a puck.
There you go.
It's the same sort of difference.
Literally, you mean metaphorically?
He was literally shot with a puck.
Oh my goodness.
He doesn't need to be shot with anything else. He just needs to be shot with a puck.
Okay, fine. After commercial, we're going to be talking to San Jose Sharks radio play-by-play, Dan Rusanowsky.
Boy, you can't read today, can you?
Apparently not. We'll be back after this.
Drink Aid, ready for distribution worldwide. Drink Aid, ready for distribution worldwide.
And we are back here on the Keel Show on 12 Ounce Sports, brought to you by mybookie.ag and none other than Second String Leather Company, crafted from the crease.
Crafted from the crease.
Yes, that's what I just said.
Well, I'm just making sure. Hashtag crafted from the crease.
Yes. At the Keel Show, hashtag TKS to get involved in the conversation, get involved with the show. We are now joined by none other than the radio play-by-play broadcaster and the only one in the history of the San Jose Sharks organization. He has called well over 2,000 games. He has been with the team since day one. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the voice of the San Jose Sharks, none other than Dan Rusanowsky.
Woo! Hey, Dan, how we doing?
Fantastic. Just a beautiful day here in Northern California. Wish it was hockey season, but it isn't. And we're hoping that that's going to get resolved sooner than later.
Yeah, that's a good point, because, Dan, you're still out there in California, and I guess just for the listeners and viewers, because I've reported it quite often on the news about everything going on in California, how has the atmosphere been there with all the wildfires going on around there? Because that's something that's pretty crazy and something we don't experience out here in the Midwest.
Well, no, we have a few things out here weather-wise that you don't have to deal with, but you guys have hurricanes and you have ice storms, and we don't have those, so no doubt that there are differences in different parts of the country, but it has been a very huge concern, especially in the Santa Cruz Mountains, which really isn't all that far from San Jose. We've noticed a change in air quality a few times, but kudos to people at CAL FIRE that are fighting this, because they're doing an amazing job. The other concerning area is wine country, which is about an hour and 40 minutes from San Jose. So we've had a number of winery buildings that have been actually destroyed, and things that have sort of been tinderboxes waiting to blow up. So these are things that obviously enter into the picture here with the way that the forest is being managed, and but that's going to yield us into forestry issues, not hockey ones.
That is true.
That is true. Yeah, infrastructure, business, wildlife, all of that being affected by all of the stuff that is going on out there for you guys. But getting, to hockey and everything, as a play-by-play broadcaster, member of the media, the news of Doc Emrick deciding to officially retire from his position with NBC and calling games, obviously I'm sure that he's not going to just leave hockey altogether. But Dan, what's your whole perception of, Doc as a career, with him deciding to put down the microphone, if you will, after, I believe, 47 years of calling games? What's your whole take on, Doc, and, any experiences you may have possibly had with him?
Well, he's a friend and he's a mentor. He's that way with everybody that he meets in the game of hockey, and he's a special human being. He's somebody that is kind, generous with his time. I'm always willing to give advice or just a pat on the back, but also to be there for you. And that's the kind of a guy that he is. And as a broadcaster, he's a quintessential American hockey voice on television. There's no doubt about that. I think that his intellectual use of vocabulary, the way that he composes a story, the way that he listens to people to find out new information, and the way that he brings his enthusiasm and love for the game are all things that come to mind for me. And I know that he's been great to me over the course of these years, and is somebody that I really, really respect.
And it is kind of almost a shame, to see him, because he was able to call his last game. I think I saw the stat today. Blake Coleman will be the last guy that Doc Emrick ever called a goal for. So there's a little trivia for you there, Alex and Dan. But if you're just joining us here on TKS, we actually talked with Brendan Batchelor of the Vancouver Canucks, star off the show, and Dan, that was kind of why I pertain to it, because even folks in Canada that don't get the American television, they even know the impact Doc Emrick had. So it's obviously a very touching tribute across the league. But, yourself, Dan, the Sharks haven't played since early March. Obviously, they didn't qualify for the playoffs, and this is around the time the season will be starting under normal circumstances, whatever normal is nowadays. But I've followed the Sharks Twitter, so I get to see you on there talking about classic games. But what have you been up to yourself? Trying to stay active for the folks at home that may not know exactly what the Sharks are doing during these trying times.
Well, what you referenced is certainly something that's kept me pretty busy. I've put together and produced over 100 classic games over the course of the summer, and that continues several times a week. And in fact, this week, with the departure of Joe Thornton to the Toronto Maple Leafs, I've got a kind of a Joe Thornton theme that I'm running. Some of his classic games that he played in the Sharks uniform. We've already run a few of those, including one in which he scored a hat trick against Boston a couple of years ago, which was so emotional for him. But I've got a couple of other ones that we're going to throw out there this week, and programming that and experimenting with all of that with the new streaming world that broadcast has gotten to. And also I'm producing a draft show that we're putting together. Nick Nolenberger, who does the play-by-play for the Barracuda in the AHL, our top affiliate, and I have talked to some of the people, and we're going to put together a little preview of the guys that were drafted. So those are a couple little things that have been going on, but it has not been a normal summer, to say the least. Normally this time of the year, I might be involved with an IndyCar race or two that comes out west, but they canceled those races, so they're not coming out this year. And, occasionally I've had the chance to call a couple of San Jose Earthquake soccer games too, believe it or not. But those are just sidelights. The main focus, of course, is the National Hockey League and the San Jose Sharks, which is what I do every day.
Right. And, talking about Joe Thornton, as two people that, I'm not so much, but Tyler is more of a Leafs fan. Obviously, he has his own opinions on it. But definitely, Jumbo Joe definitely had a lot of impact and a lot of influence when it comes to the history of the San Jose Sharks organization when he first came there and his entire career playing for San Jose. What are some of the favorite moments that you can recall of Joe Thornton in a San Jose Sharks uniform?
There are too many to count. He's really a seminal figure in the history of the San Jose Sharks. Transformed the organization on the day that he was acquired. In fact, the story that I always like to tell is the day he was acquired was very interesting because the Sharks had lost 10 games in a row and were in Dallas. It was the end of November in 2005. And we were in the press room, as we normally are, having a little bit of a bite to eat before going up to the booth in the afternoon. And in there, we were sitting down, and it was a little bit unusual that day because there were two players that were eating in the press room. And obviously, those players, Nico Dimitrakos and Jim Fahey, were guys that were in and out of the lineup. And if they're eating at 5 o'clock, they're not playing. There's just no doubt that they're out of the lineup. And so it wasn't really unusual that they might not be playing, but it was maybe a little bit odd that they were in the press room eating, which some guys would do on occasion, but usually these guys go through their game day routines and definitely don't change them up. So they'd normally be eating about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, getting a nap, and then coming to the rink as if they were playing. But these guys were actually having a little bit of a bite to eat and having a coffee or whatever, sitting there chatting. So we said hello to them. We went up to the booth, and warm-up went as normally it would. The guys went through warm-ups. Nothing seemed to be unusual with the lineups. And then they come out onto the ice for the start of the game. And Ron Wilson, the head coach of the Sharks, calls the officials over. All the officials are over, and Ron is holding up the lineup sheet. And I don't know if you've ever seen this, but if you make a mistake with the lineup sheet and it's incorrect, you could get a penalty for using an ineligible player that's not on that list. And I've seen that happen. It happened one other time in Sharks history. And it's happened several times where, you're jotting down a number and you write, let's say this happened right after the trade deadline and somebody was wearing number 12, you write 12 and you write Patrick Marleau right away. Well, Patrick Marleau was just traded last week. So, the coach might just make an honest mistake. So they look over the lineup card to make sure that it was okay. And I was commenting on this as we were watching this unfold. Meanwhile, we get the sheet for the lineup as to what the starting lineups were from the media relations department. Nothing looked unusual. And then they drop the puck. They drop the puck, and immediately the Sharks have a line change. Immediately. And I hear myself calling the play-by-play, and I hear my own voice say, Fahey passes the puck to Dimitrakos. Now, as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, I just saw those guys in the press room at 5:30. What the hell are they doing on the ice? Something's wrong. So then we look out, because the trade had happened just before face-off. And so we're counting the bench, and we say that there's one player missing. So they only have 17 guys dressed for the game. So now we know something else is going on. Did somebody have a bout of food poisoning? Did something else occur? And then we said, well, who's missing? Well, Wayne Primo's not there. Well, Marco Sturm's not there. Brad Stewart's not there. So we said, fellas, there's just been a very big trade made and it just happened. And so we're trying to figure it all out. And I know that you guys think that the internet has been around forever, but it hasn't.
Oh,
back in 2000.
But Alex has not been around enough. I remember the old 3.5 floppy disks. I remember those, Dan. Don't you worry.
Well, there weren't too many floppy disks in this case either. But it was just sort of starting. It was starting to get ramped up where the news services were more and more involved on the web, and so I started scouring the internet while we were broadcasting the game to see if we could figure out what on earth happened, because there was nothing coming out of the Sharks side. All the PR was downstairs in the locker room. There were all kinds of things going on. And as it turns out, they were all making phone calls to, arrange for these guys to travel to wherever they needed to be. Well, what happens after that? Well, I finally got the news that Joe Thornton was being traded to the Sharks. And this is something you have to be very careful about. As we all know now, if it happens on Twitter, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And the same thing is, you don't believe everything you read in a newspaper, but you have to trust your sources. So I noticed that a relatively reliable source was reporting that Joe Thornton had been acquired. I noted that it was not official, but that if that were true, it was the biggest trade in the history of the Sharks. And then it was confirmed a few minutes later by someone from our team, and then we were able to fully report that it had occurred, and this is exactly what the details of the trade were. So it was an amazing moment, and that's my first memory of Joe Thornton. The second thing, his very first game, the team plays in Buffalo, and the first thing he does is he skates down the ice about 20 seconds into the first period. He hits the crossbar. So already he was creating excitement just seconds into his first shift as a member of the Sharks, and from then on it was an Art Ross and a Hart Trophy, and helping Jonathan Cheechoo have a 56-goal season, and so many unbelievable years, so many great memories, a lot of laughs. He's somebody that loves the game of hockey as much as he loves being alive, and I think that that's one of the reasons why his career has lasted as long as it has, along with a total dedication to really working to be at his best at all times. He takes great care of himself. He's very diligent when it comes to his diet and his training and his habits, and he balances his family life. He's got kids, and he's got a lovely wife, and he's able to balance that part of his life with his work life. And he's just a great example to everybody. He's one of the greatest players I've ever seen play, and certainly right at the top when it comes to people that I've actually had on teams that I've worked with.
And it's funny because I had the fortunate chance, and I can say I've officially kind of sort of met a Toronto Maple Leaf because I ran into him last year when you guys were in Detroit. I was working at the GLI tournament that was going on right before you guys, and it was right after.
I remember walking by some of the teams there.
Yep, and you guys, it was right after the morning skate was when I was there with Ferris and Michigan State were playing in their consolation game, and guys are walking out. So I said hi to like Eric Carlson and Martin Jones, whatever. And Joe Thornton walks by himself, and some pros, they like to be left alone, whatever. And I saw him, and we did that awkward kind of eye contact for a second, and I actually had to look up, which is a rarity for a guy like me. But I look up, and there's Joe, and he's looking at me. I'm like, "Hey, Joe, how's it going?" Just like casual, like I've seen him like 20 times before. Never met this guy in my life, and he probably will never remember me. But I was like, the fact that he was like, "Hey, I'm doing great, man. How about you?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing good." Like the fact that, some pros will be like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Like, oh, leave me alone." But Joe, I mean, shoot, had you not had to go to the bus, probably would have sat there for 20 minutes because, well, he's a good St. Thomas boy there, Alex. We know.
Oh, yeah. Well, listed as London, Ontario, Canada on Wikipedia, but we know from a very reliable source that he's from St. Thomas, Ontario.
Yes, a very reliable.
He's from St. Thomas, very proudly so.
Yes, and we learned that the hard way. Do you want to tell that story?
Well, we learned that the hard way. Well, Tyler technically has had, I would say, with an asterisk, 2 interactions with Joe Thornton. I myself have only had one. The closest I've ever been to talking to him was heckling him through the glass at Joe Louis Arena when the Sharks were playing the Detroit Red Wings and an offensive zone face-off. And it was Tyler, our great aunt, and myself. And my great aunt's married to a Canadian
who's from St. Thomas.
Who is from St. Thomas and is very proud of Canadian-born hockey players, and specifically Joe Thornton. And myself and my brother, we were heckling him.
We were giving him the business.
And all of a sudden, I get a nice little tap. We'll call it a tap on the shoulder
for the sake of the show.
And we'll say, and our blessed great aunt, she says, "Do you know where he's from?" And it's like, no. Joe Thornton is from St. Thomas, Ontario, just like your Uncle Cliff. Now, you have to show him respect. You do not badmouth him, especially Joe Thornton. You don't badmouth back.
And that's when we learned that Joe Thornton is very highly regarded, and we respected him ever since. That
is very true. That is very true.
Well, all you got to do is watch him on the ice, the way that he plays. He's one of the most creative players that I've ever seen, and somebody that always makes people around him better. I think he's just a special guy.
And I totally agree with you. That's why there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, why would the Leafs sign such an old guy?" I mean, yeah, he's not as fast as he was when he was, by the way, the only Hart Trophy winner to ever play for 2 teams. Alex, remember that?
Yep.
But he's still creative. He's still one of the best passers I think ever in the league. But I guess the one bummer is the fact that he will not be playing this year, Alex, with Patty Marleau.
That is true. So with Jumbo Joe leaving, Patrick Marleau has come back to the Sharks on a 1-year deal, that, if I'm correct, that's $800,000?
Yes. I should know this, but yes. 1 year at least.
So let's just all assume that Patrick Marleau is, decided to finish his career in San Jose after
crossed.
Going to the Leafs and then going back to San Jose and then going to Pittsburgh and now coming back to San Jose. How fitting do you think it is, Dan, that Patrick Marleau he's back in San Jose, he's back in a Sharks uniform, and being able to skate through the Shark Head at PNC? Or not PNC. Oh, my goodness.
The Shark Tank.
The Shark Tank, yes.
You are struggling today.
Well, where do I go with that? I'd say that we're all excited here in San Jose to have Patrick Marleau back in Teal. And, of course, there's a pretty sizable record that's at stake this year for Patrick. And it's not the most goals or most points or anything like that. He's actually, the Sharks' all-time leading goal scorer and point getter. Joe Thornton has more assists, but Patrick has been here technically longer. He's, this is his 21st season with the team. But he's 45 games away from breaking Gordie Howe's all-time record for most games played in the history of the NHL. And when you consider his durability at this stage of his life at age 41, he's played in over 850 consecutive games. He's worked so hard, and as is the case with Joe Thornton, just as a great professional in terms of being prepared to play all the time. He's not as fast quite as he was when he was 25, but he's still faster than most people in the league. And he's somebody that has a great deal of, shall we say, elan when he's on the ice, but also he's somebody that can still score some goals. So we're looking forward to having him back with the club and having an excellent year to help the Sharks get back to where they belong in the postseason.
Yeah, this team missed for the first time since 2015, missed the playoffs. And, they get a guy like Devin Dubnyk. What do you think the Sharks, and obviously you're going to be talking, like you said, having a little draft show talking about members of the Barracuda. How long do you think, is there a time frame that I don't want to say the word rebuild yet, but is this Sharks team going to be a team that'll be right back in the playoff picture, or do you think it may be an extended period of time before they get back to the postseason?
Well, look at the history of the last 2 decades. The San Jose Sharks, the year after they missed the playoffs, which has only happened 3 times now in those 2 decades, have had very strong rebound and rejuvenation seasons. You go back to 15, they missed the playoffs. What did they do the next year? Went to the Stanley Cup final. What happened when they missed the playoffs prior to that in 2003? Next year, 2004, went to the conference final. And so those are just 2 examples. Now we have the third one where they missed the playoffs this year. You know, the bones of this team are still very, very solid. This was a good team that had a bad year last year. And there were a number of reasons for that. I don't use the word rebuild with this organization. I use the more retool, refresh, and, you know, have the continuous change. You guys are around the college hockey world, and you know that seniors graduate every year, and that means you have to make sure that the freshmen and sophomores are coming in and down the pipeline and ready to play. And that's a kind of an analogy that Lou Lamoriello has always used when talking about his pro hockey rosters. And he comes from a college background. I did too. So that's the kind of way that you can understand it. And I think that the Sharks right now are a team that is starting to transition their roster a little bit. Joe Pavelski left for Dallas this past year, and Logan Couture has become the captain of the team. And I think he's also from the London St. Thomas area. He's going to do an outstanding job. So I think it's one step at a time. You're trying to reload with younger talent. The league is also changing in terms of the way that the game is played. So that was reflected in the most recent draft, where the Sharks were looking for guys that have good jam, can play the physical game, but also have great speed. And I think that that's one area where they wanted to address this summer. And they've done that with, they had 9 picks in the draft. They were all forwards. And I think that that's going to really help to give the team some more depth. There's some guys from the San Jose Barracuda, the AHL, that are going to be more ready to play in the National Hockey League this year. And it's another year of development for some of the young guys. And so it's all of that with the experience that they have. And, the key thing is they've got 3 really elite defensemen in Erik Karlsson, Brent Burns, and Marc-Edouard Vlasic. They've got an up-and-comer in Mario Ferraro. They've got another guy that's on his way up in Radim Šimek. And so beyond that, they've got some youngsters that are going to work their way into the lineup. You mentioned the goaltending. I think that the unique schedule that we're probably going to get this year is going to be a compressed one because of the COVID-19 problems. So you're going to need 2 goaltenders that A, push each other every night for ice time, but B, given the fact that there's going to be a lot of maybe 4 games in 5 nights, 3 games in 4 nights situations, you're going to need 2 goaltenders to be at a very high level. So with Devan Dubnyk at age 34 coming in here, he's somebody that is a known quantity. He's had some very good seasons, wants to put some pressure on himself to have a better year than he had last year. And the same with Martin Jones, really. These are 2 guys that have definitely gotten it done for the teams they've played for. Martin Jones led his club to the Stanley Cup final in 2016. And who could forget the upset of Vegas and the trip to the conference final just 2 years ago, a year plus ago in 2019. So Martin Jones was a key factor in that situation too. So it's not all negative. It's just a situation where the team is retooling, adding some young talent to the roster, adjusting to the changes in the way that the game is played, and looking to rebound, which they have each and every time in the last 2 decades after they've had a disappointing year.
So, I mean, it's funny. I want like the Sharks to do better because that 2016 team was so magical. And then the 2019 team, it seemed like they were down and out. They were able to come back in and make it all the way to the conference finals despite almost beating the odds. This team is still good. They still have guys I love Evander Kane. I've always loved him. I think,
great goal scorer.
Great goal scorer. He had a little bit of a fallout in Winnipeg, I know, but had a kind of a revitalization in Buffalo. A lot of great players, but I mean, before we let you go here, Dan, we got to ask the important question here. Because you've only been the only radio play-by-play guy in the history of the Sharks. You've been there since day one. The first thing that comes to your mind when I say, what are your favorite moments calling games? You've called Stanley Cup finals, outdoor games. You've called them beating the Wings in 94. Sorry, Dad. I know he's watching this right now. But in other playoff upsets, great playoff runs. What is Dan Rusanowsky's favorite moments as a Sharks broadcaster?
Boy, that's a really tough question. There are a variety of games and moments in which I could put at the top of the list, not the least of which is my first National Hockey League game, which was way back in October of 1991 at the old Pacific Coliseum in Vancouver. That game, believe it or not, the very first game in San Jose Sharks history was not broadcast on television to the Bay Area. It was only on the radio. So the only Bay Area or Northern California recording of that game is mine. And I did the game with Dennis Hull. It was a special night. He was my first color commentator. I've had a handful of them over the years. But from that moment on, you have to understand, it's a privilege to be able to fulfill your lifelong dream and broadcast hockey and paint that picture for the avid listening audience that we have in San Jose and around the world now with the advent of satellite radio and the apps and the internet streams and every other way you can access a broadcast. And I have to say that, if you look at over the years, I can go through them. Game 7, the whole series against Detroit in 94 was a very special one because it was the very first playoff series the Sharks ever had, and they shocked the hockey world and beat what was the best team in hockey that year in 7 games in an unbelievable set of circumstances. But in the very next round, they went to Game 7 against Toronto, which was another special thing. How often do you get a chance to play 2 original 6 teams in one season and play them both to 7-game series? That was amazing. There was actually a parade for that team when they came back home, and you're not supposed to have a parade until you win the Stanley Cup, but people in San Jose were just so excited about the team that they invited them to have a little celebration in downtown San Jose. That was something special. Won't ever happen again until they actually win the Cup, and then they'll do the parade totally. But the next year they beat Calgary in 7 games when they weren't supposed to, and the kid from Edmonton, Ray Whitney, was able to get the game-winning goal in double overtime at Game 7 at the Saddle Dome. So that, that's a good way to start your playoff career in terms of broadcasting. And then, I always remember a game against the Detroit Red Wings back in 2010 when Joe Thornton flipped the puck over to Patrick Marleau and he converted on the 2-on-1 to give the Sharks a big victory, as I remember it, in overtime. That gave the Sharks a stranglehold over the series. That was just a special moment that comes to mind. And, of course, the Stanley Cup final, Jonas Donskoy in overtime in Game 3, Martin Jones, the unbelievable goaltending performance in Game 5 to force a Game 6, where it all ended with Sidney Crosby getting the Conn Smythe and carrying the cup around, SAP Center. But, those are just a couple of moments that are part of a whole litany of and many chapters of incredible hockey, great moments, great players, and a lot of fun.
I know our dad's watching this right now, talking about the Sharks being the Wings. He's sitting there in the corner. It's like, I remember all this stuff, and he's getting.
Well, let's not forget. Let's not forget about the bad stuff too. It's not all about wins and playoff victories. If you want to talk about the Red Wings, how about when the Sharks had a 2-1 lead over the Red Wings in 2007, and everything went wrong in the last couple of minutes, and Robert Lang tied the game in the extra skater on after everybody on the Sharks messed up, including Yevgeny Nabokov in goal, and then Matthew Schneider got the game winner in overtime. And so we thought that the Red Wings were ready to be beaten right there. And from that moment, instead of being up 3-1, it was 2-2, and the Sharks season came to an end quickly. We had another one where we called it the tennis series, where after upsetting the Red Wings in 94, then they beat Calgary in the first round in 95. Guess who they play in round 2? Detroit, that same team that they upset. Well, Scotty Bowman and the Red Wings weren't going to put up with that. And we called it the tennis series because the scores were 6-love, 6-2, 6-2, 6-2. Series and set over, game, set, match. Red Wings sweep the Sharks. So we've had moments, good and bad. We were in Denver, Colorado, and actually we were in Littleton, Colorado on the day of the Columbine Massacre, which meant that the series against the Avalanche had to be postponed and had to start in San Jose, even though Colorado had the home ice advantage in that series. That's terrible. We've had a series of other things happen like that over the years, and some funny ones too, where, we had a postponed game in Vancouver where I looked out from my hotel and out on Robson Street. They were actually cross-country skiing down the street. There was absolutely no way the game was ever going to get played. We had S.J. Sharkey caught up in the rafters, another game against the Red Wings.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Late 90s. Scotty Bowman actually couldn't even look as they tried to pull him back up because they thought they might miss him and he would fall to his death. So, there are a lot of great little vignettes like that happen in the game of hockey. It's not just about big victories. It's about some catastrophic losses. Here's another one where the Sharks had a 1-0 lead in Calgary, and the final score was 13-1 Flames. I remember calling that game by myself. So there are a lot of moments like that you live and die through with the team, obviously, and that's part of what makes hockey great. And you look back at all of those little moments, and you have so many great memories. And there are a lot more to come for San Jose Sharks fans. The greatest one is going to be when I get to have the privilege of calling a Stanley Cup championship for them. It will happen at some point, and I'm hoping it does soon, at least sooner than later. But it's all part of the journey, and that's what makes this game so very, very special.
Lots of good moments and lots of kind of weird ones that have definitely happened, and obviously you're going to see a lot more, and you're going to be calling a lot more, hopefully with a Stanley Cup victory on its way. At Dan Rusanowsky on Twitter. Make sure to check all of the San Jose Sharks media to look at the classic games that he's been putting together, working hard on. Dan, thank you so much for spending the time with us. It's been a real pleasure talking to you about the San Jose Sharks.
Well, I appreciate that, and certainly all the best of luck to you guys with the show. And, if anybody does want to listen to any of those classic broadcasts, you could just go to sjsharks.com/classic broadcasts. And when the player comes up, hit play, and you'll find something out there. The next premiere is tomorrow night.
Ooh, all right.
Definitely
we will
tune
have
on
to
that.
tune in on that one. Dan, thank you once again for being on the show. We'll definitely be talking to you soon.
And that was Dan Rusanowsky, and man, that was fun. We should have more often.
We should do that more often. But we are going to head off to commercial here, and then we're going to be talking about some trades, some signings, and get you guys out of here. Here on The Keel Show.
Drink Aid, ready for distribution worldwide.
And we are back from our second and final commercial break here on the Keel Show here on 12 Ounce Sports, brought to you by mybookie.ag and Second String Leather Company, crafted from the crease.
Hashtag crafted from the crease.
At the Keel Show, hashtag TKS to get involved in the conversation. Do we have anybody on YouTube that have been getting in there?
Well, no.
Well,
hard no.
good to know.
It sucks because those are too big. And like I said, Brendan was helping us promote our stuff. We were getting a lot of looks and stuff like that, and we were getting people, and even Rusanowsky liked one of our tweets, so we were getting a lot of traction. I'm like, oh, maybe people will comment. No, not this week. We even wore our stuff. Like I wore my Canucks shirt for Batch, and you wore your Sharks for Rusanowsky, and
I did.
And man, that's.
I just want to make it perfectly clear. When I mispronounced his last name the first time, it was because I'm reading the script.
Oh, yeah.
As I do, as a.
I thought you would have known the name.
Hold on. As a professional, I read the script word for word because you know what?
I don't pay you anything to be.
Because you know what? I have
You're
to follow
Ron
the
Burgundy.
script.
You are.
Even though sometimes it may be wrong, I'm like, all right, I'm going to trust the script. And he spells it wrong.
I flipped the O and the W.
Everywhere else on the script, perfectly spelled correctly, Rusanowsky, but no, the first time it's mentioned on the script.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Dead wrong. Talking about dead, let's talk about trades.
What? Talk about death. Well, I don't know.
Not dead, more like Devin Taves to Colorado from the New York Islanders. The Islanders giving up a 2021 and 2022 second round pick.
Yes, second round for both years. That's what that meant.
Yes.
You want to write the script?
Dude, you need to figure it out. You want to make a career out of this, dude?
I could read that just fine. Whenever I do my shows by myself, I read that because then again I know what I'm saying there because I wrote it. So.
Tyler, I'm just saying, if you want to do this for real, you got it.
I'm not a prop writer. I am
not.
I'm not meant to be behind the camera, Alex. Trust me. You see the production level.
You're not meant to be in front of the camera. Look at that mug.
You're wearing a toque.
Oh yes.
You're wearing a toque indoors.
Yes.
Pops would be ashamed.
My head's cold.
Pops would rip that thing off and throw it.
I have less hair on my head than you do, which is funny because boys got a receding hairline. Look at that. Get out of here.
I'm looking at it's funny. I look at my hair now. It's like it flops down in front. I don't like putting product in my hair because then it gets stuck.
You
and
need to.
Because
it looks good.
because then the dent right here where the headset sits on it, it'll have a divot when I take it off.
Because oh my goodness, because you don't know how to do it, bro.
Bro.
Time.
You're broing me right now.
Get with the periodic table of being successful, bro.
Devin Taves going to Colorado. This is literally a move. Now, the other trade, of course, was Nate Schmidt going to the Vancouver Canucks, but we discussed that quite a bit with Brendan Batchelor. So,
Tyler, the hockey nerd.
Yes, and if you...
Tyler, the hockey nerd, I have a question.
What's the question?
Why the hell should I care?
About the Devin Taves or the Nate Schmidt trade?
Yes!
Well, I'd say Brendan Batchelor. If you guys
no,
want
the Nate Schmidt trade is a little bit more, but no, this one. Devin Taves, Colorado.
Well, I'm just telling people if they want to talk more about the Nate Schmidt trade, they can watch the replay tomorrow on our YouTube channel or listen to it on their favorite podcatcher because we talked with play-by-play broadcaster Brendan Batchelor. And if you were just coming back for break, you missed that part. We were talking to Dan Rusanowsky. He had some pretty good stories. I would have loved to heard his reaction to the S.J. Sharkey story because they were just throwing mats down, and he's like 20 feet above. And let's be honest, I've fallen on the ice from ground level. How about that high up?
When it comes to sports and people falling out of rafters, we usually know what happens.
Owen Hart. I'm sorry. Is it too far?
I'm just saying.
Is that the too far?
I hear the stories and everything about the Owen Hart tragedy, and then I go back.
Dark Side of the Ring. Definitely go watch it.
And I go watch the VHS tape of the home opener for the Grand Rapids Griffins, and I was like, do you think it was a good idea to give someone a flaming, well, it wasn't flaming. It was a stick with a frickin' firework on it.
No. The Griff story. So he had skates on, but they put the skate guards on him. And he didn't grab the stick until he came down. He didn't grab the firework stick until he got down off of the wire. That's why I see that.
Dumb.
It tells you something is going wrong. Which is weird because Owen Hart happened in 99. S.J. Sharkey, that was the beginning of the 99-2000 season. So that's the thing. I'm like, where did that conversation come? It's like, all right, we know what just happened.
Scotty Bowman was just like, I'm not watching this. No, this isn't.
This is not happening again. This is not happening in front of my eyes.
That was a very interesting interview with
Well,
Dan.
the best. I think the part that I'm going to clip for sure, Alex. Definitely the Joe Thornton story.
Oh yeah, no.
Because the trade of Joe Thornton, because that's
another thing. Clip that. Just that.
No. I've been doing better. Last couple weeks, I've been doing only like 5-minute clips.
Yeah,
I know the 30.
Here's a quick clip of the boys talking about the Detroit Red Wings.
30 minutes.
24 minutes later. Just clips, quick. Hence the reason why I think about your show, Quick Hits, which obviously you don't really have to do anymore.
It's a quick hits because it's like an hour.
An hour. It's like pardon the interruption.
It's quicker than this show.
It's like pardon the interruption. It should be 15 minutes.
No, that's not okay. No, Devin Taves going to Colorado. Literally a move that Joe Sakic has made to kind of sort of fill the spot that Nikita Zadorov left when he traded him to Chicago.
Yes.
Cheaper contract. Devin Taves, we saw a lot in these playoffs, played a pretty big role. Now, once again, that's under Barry Trotz's style, and a lot of players that play that lesser role, that can play that defensive role, flourish under that type of style. Colorado, Jared Bednar, a little different. A lot of more offensive-minded players. You have McKinnon, you got Makar on defense. So, yeah, maybe Makar, even though I'm pretty sure Taves is right-handed, I think he is. No, don't say it.
You're asking the wrong dude.
I know. I should have asked that question. Let me make sure. Devin Taves.
I need my T-shirt.
He is left. He shoots left. So, yes, you could put him on Cale Makar's wing. Cale Makar do his little skate up the ice, whatever. Devin Taves sit there back on the blue line and be like, I got this. I'm back here by myself, but I got this. No, literally, that's pretty much going to be his role.
I'll get something.
I like that move. It's not a big move, and pretty much that's a real.
I think, honestly, if this was a win for anybody, and I know I usually categorize trades as wins or losses. If this is a win for anybody, it's got to be the Islanders. It honestly has to be. This is just them establishing more, just putting more investment into their future. The Islanders have proven recently that they are a contender in this league. That's something that they can do on a yearly basis, and especially with the talent that is developing and is already there.
The Avalanche still have to sign him, by the way.
Yes, they do.
He's an RFA.
They do, but that being said, I think this is just a good move for the Islanders, especially with, I want to say it, the Sound Tigers. They have one of the better graduation rates, don't they?
They have. Well, they brought up a lot of good players. They have guys like Ryan.
They have a lot of. Let me rephrase that. They have a lot of players that they can bring up from Bridgeport that can fit into the system pretty well.
Well, they've done well. They got Ryan Pollock, who is an RFA, but he's played a big role. Adam Pelech, he's got one more year at 1.6. He came up from Bridgeport as well. So yes, in their time they've been able to, and they have a couple good guys down there. Not the good Sebastian Aho, but they still have him down there in Bridgeport. The other one, Bodie Wild's down there. I don't know. I mean, he's 20 years old. He's still pretty young. They also have Samuel Bolduc, who
please sign Joshua Hosang,
who came from he came from Sherbrooke, Phoenix, but he also played for Blainville Boisbriand, Alex. Armada! I know you just like saying that. That's why I left that one for you.
I really do.
Blainville Boisbriand. Armada. That's where he came from. So, yes, there's a lot of good talent down there. So that's why I'm pretty sure that Lou Lamoriello is like, okay, I like you, but okay.
Yeah, right. We don't need you.
We don't need you. Well, how do you think? We don't need you.
We don't need you.
See, your Lou Lamoriello just turns into Burba. That's all it ever does. It just
don't need you.
It just turns into Burba.
We just don't need you.
Burba is the psychology teacher.
Was.
He's retired?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good for him. Is he back in the bar business?
The bar business?
Or
he's retired.
I don't know what he.
By all I know, he's down in Florida.
Oh, that's bad.
No, it's not.
In the part of Florida where it's secluded.
His wife's got seasonal depression disorder. It's good.
Oh, that's why they go down there. Okay.
Yeah.
Signings.
Yes.
So
actual hockey news.
So this time we're going to go from the good to the meh. We're going to start off with.
Can we go meh to good, please?
Well, then you're going to have to.
Because I can skip through all the meh.
Well, okay. Because you're the one reading them off, so I don't care.
Okay, well here's my question. Am I gonna read them off, and then after I read them all, then you're gonna say stuff, or am I gonna read them and then you say stuff?
You can skip. Stop at Graves.
Okay. How about this?
Stop at Graves.
I will read everybody.
Say
I'll read everybody.
No, because there's some bigger ones. Stop.
We can go back. No, this is what I'll do. I'll read everyone.
You're going to do what I say you're going to do.
Make sure.
Stop it, Ryan Graves, because I got things that, the first 4 I don't have much on, so read those off, but Ryan Graves I'll break down.
Okay. Joachim.
As you can tell, we did a lot of planning before the show.
Joachim Nordstrom. Not Markstrom. Nordstrom Rack.
Boston Bruin, former Boston Bruin.
Now, again,
no, wait,
Bruin.
no, I read that wrong. No,
Oh, my gosh.
Calgary. I typed it wrong. I was so focused that he was a former Boston Bruin, I wrote Boston.
I'm going to put dents in your
I
table.
focused on the other parts of the... We had 2 pretty big parts of the show that I had to focus on, Alex. I'm sorry.
I'm just going to draw obscenities on your table with this Sharpie marker.
You want to tell Kelly that?
Joachim Nordstrom. Caltech.
No. That's not even...
You just wrote Cal. University Cal Berkeley.
It's Calgary, you turducken.
All right.
Minimum
Joachim
wage.
Nordstrom Rack, Caltech, $7K for 10 years.
10 years. He's got a master's degree. He's getting his
master's
He's getting his
degree
doctorate
for
from Caltech.
Thank you, Uncle Max.
Calgary. Is that better?
Calgary. Joachim Nordstrom Rack, Calgary, $700,000 for a year.
Thank God.
That's the first guy we're going to not talk about. Talking about Vancouver with our guest, Autumn
What?
Godet.
What?
I'm just looking at all these names and I'm trying to pronounce them incorrectly.
You already said Brandon. You first time you said Batchelor. I'm like Brandon. Like, oh dear Lord. I'm like,
I said Brandon.
You said Brandon.
Brandon.
Viewers, what did he say?
Oh, whatever.
What did he say? He said
Adam Godet.
Godet.
That's what I said.
You said Godet. You said Godet.
Adam Gonads re-signs with Vancouver. He's got $950K. That's 1,000 for those at home. For 1 year. 365 days of gonads. Eric Gustafsson.
Eric Gustafson.
3 M&Ms for a year in PHI.
You know, someone probably tuned in to see if they catch the end of the Dan Rusanowsky interview.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the real part of the kill. Eric Gustafson.
Welcome to Thunderdome.
Well, I will say this quickly about Gustafson. This is pretty much them trying to replace Radko Gudas with getting Gustafson.
Yeah,
I'll go with that. I'll give you that part. So,
Matthias Janmark.
no, what the really? That's Matthias, former Grand Rapids Griffin Matthias Janmark. It was for a very brief time period.
When?
Okay.
I don't care enough. He signed with Chi-Town.
Why does Matthias
Windy
Janmark's
City.
girlfriend come up before his stats?
Is she hot?
I have no. I'm not going to look that up. I don't care. Let's see here.
Former star. He signed
played for Grand Rapids for. Wow. Well,
2 games.
because the Griffins posted it. This was his graduation date.
Fantastic.
He played 2 games.
Great.
Went back home to Sweden.
Oh wait, no.
Oh, pardon me.
8 games.
6 games in the playoffs. Sorry.
8 total games as a Griffin. Wow.
It's like saying how Jason Spezza is an all-time Griffin, even though he played
Hey, guess what?
5 games.
Chris Osgood is a graduate of the Griffins.
He was no, I don't count rehab stints. Rehab stints don't count.
He was there a medical assignment.
So Chris Chelios, Manny Legacy, Curtis Joseph.
Can we count Darren McCarty, please?
Yes, because he technically went to retirement.
Went to rehab.
And he said, well, he went to rehab, and he said, yeah, it just took him a few years to do it. Anyways,
2.25 for a year for Matthias Janmark in the Windy
Griffin
City.
legend Matthias Janmark.
Sure. Ryan Graves, not brother of Corey Graves, re-signs with Colorado. 3 years, $3.16666666666 repeating million dollars.
That's a good contract because he's still a young defenseman. He really came on the scene last year with obviously he led the league in plus minus, and I know that's a very undermined stat nowadays. It's not looked at as a very big, especially with all the with all the analytics nowadays, that it's kind of like, that's a very passe stat to look at. But such a young defenseman, and obviously he was put in easy situations for him to succeed. But the fact he was still able to be consistent in those situations, that's why the Avalanche are going to go with a lower end deal in terms of millions of dollars and less term. And that's one. Now, obviously, the contract we'll get to at the top. It's a long term, lots of money, but
not worth.
Well,
not.
Well, what I'm saying
not
is
worth it.
What I'm saying is that the trend this year has been a lot of shorter contracts, and that's because players realize, hey, the cap may go up in 3 or 4 years, or their value may go up in 3 or 4 years.
Well, yeah.
So that's why there's been a lot of short-term contracts where, Taylor Hall, he was looking for 5 or 6 years before he signed with Buffalo. But he decided, let's just get 1 year, get paid a bunch of money. Maybe we can find a team next year that's willing to pay term and cash. And obviously you want to figure out, if the salary cap will go up in the near future, which it'd probably be 3 years at 81.5 at least.
Right.
So that's why they went with that contract. Great deal, though, for Ryan Graves.
Evgeny Dadonov, $5 million by 3 years. And this is an Ottawa team that has been. They've been getting a lot of guys.
And it's funny.
I'm concerned because now they're going back to their old 2D logo. I like the look of their jerseys, and they're picking up not bad players.
They're going to the beginning because remember, like the early 2000s, they had the white on the elbows before they went to the actual.
I know.
So they went to the old with the black arms, with the one you kept seeing in the D3 movie, the Mighty Ducks movie. Yeah,
I dig it.
I like it too. Brian 5 or 6 is having himself a ball up there right now.
Oh, of course. Well, I bet every Ottawa Senators fan, if you're still out there and you're not in your bunker yet,
well, they're coming back now. Everyone that put their Leaf sweater on after the Senators got bad is taking it back off and like, yeah, 2007, woo! But
the meme of Homer Simpson wearing a Detroit Red Wing or an Ottawa Senator jersey and then going back into the bushes and coming out wearing a Leafs jersey is going back with a Leafs jersey and then coming out with an Ottawa Senators jersey.
Well, I said this last week, Alex. The Atlantic Division with Buffalo getting Taylor Hall and making a little bit of fine-tuning moves there. The Ottawa Senators getting Matt Murray. Oh, man, you may not like the deal, but it's an opportunity for that. I give that the Chris Pronger effect. 1 year in Edmonton, got him to the finals. I don't think Taylor Hall's going to take this to the Stanley Cup Finals, but what I'm saying is it could make them better.
More like a Zach Parise effect, where they're going to get marginally better, but it's not going to be worth it. It's going to end in disaster.
It's 1 year versus 13 or 12 or however long it is.
Yes, but if he gets 10 goals, then it's going to be 10 mil.
But Buffalo gets a little bit better. I think Florida and Bill Zito's made a lot of great moves down in Florida. If Bobrovsky can have a better year, they'll be better. Detroit is going to be competitive with Thomas Greiss, their goaltender. They're signing a couple of good.
Mark Stahl.
He may not be the same Mark Stahl, but he's bringing in veteran players.
Who's the goalie for that team?
Thomas Greiss. They signed him. Thomas Greiss was signed by the Wings.
But who's the backup, though?
Bernier. Still Bernier. Yeah. He won more games than Jimmy Howard. And again...
That's another question. Who hasn't picked up Jimbo? He's still free agent.
We'll save that for the end if we have time for
36 years old.
But Ottawa's getting better. Detroit's going to be more competitive. Buffalo, Florida, and Boston's offloading. Tampa's going to have to start offloading. Toronto is a thing. They're getting tougher. If the Canadian division is a thing, then obviously it'll be with Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa up there.
Toronto loses every time.
But that Atlantic division, if it stays to those divisions, it's getting a lot tighter, Alex. And I'm not saying full scale Metro division tight yet, but it's getting more competitive and in a good way. Because for the last 3 years, who has it been? Boston, Tampa, Toronto.
Yes.
And I don't say it's gotten boring, but it's made
Boston, Tampa, Toronto /Islanders /Canes.
No, I'm talking in the Atlantic division, just the Atlantic.
Oh,
not the wild card. No, not the Metro or the wild card. The only thing we've ever really had to debate, the only thing we've ever had to debate and pick on was who had the best chance to get a lottery pick.
East.
I thought you said West.
That's what
I know. I like repeating people. You're just throwing your sharp.
Oh, windmill.
I saw that. It's not Windmill Wednesday. It's Tuesday, but you know what? Who cares?
It's Monday.
I don't know what day it is anymore.
It's Make Up Your Damn Mind Monday.
That's a good one. I'll allow it.
Yeah.
But I like this move because it adds a little bit more scoring. Dadonov wasn't the top guy in Florida, but he put up some numbers. He was sort of a power play, off the power play, on the power play kind of guy. He'll get that opportunity playing with guys like Connor Brown, Matthew Tkachuk, or Brady Tkachuk, excuse me. He's surrounded by a very good, young, talented team, or very talented team that has some growing to do. It's a good spot for him. They have goaltending. They have a couple good young defensemen. Ottawa is not going to be a team that's going to be looking at. It's like, hey, that's 2 points right there. Psych. What are you laughing about?
You know how in hockey, like some players with their last names, they'll like change them up. So like it'll be like Matthias Janmark, right? They'll call him Yanni, right? Call him Yanni. And maybe Ryan Graves is Gravesy.
Gravesy?
Evgeny Dadonov. Do you think they call him Daddy?
I don't know. Well, I don't. They probably don't call him Gino, but
Why would they call him Gino?
well, like Evgeny Malkin, but like Gino because it's shorter. I don't know what the nickname is. I don't have any connections down in Florida, Alex.
Why would they call Evgeny? I don't see why they call him Evgeny Malkin Gino.
Just
He's not even Italian.
I don't know, Alex. I'm sorry. You know what? Let's go to Pittsburgh right now.
Evgeny Daddy.
We'll ask him from a distance, socially distant. Mr. Malkin, yeah. Why Gino? Okay. All right, perfect. And then we get the answer. We go home. We can.
Here's the
report on it.
question.
What? You're driving.
Hoagie or Philly cheesesteak?
Well, we're in Pittsburgh, so not Philly cheesesteak. It'd be a hoagie. We'd be in Pittsburgh.
Still round.
I'm not going to get a Philly cheesesteak in Pittsburgh. I'm going to get that one corned beef sandwich with coleslaw and french fries on it that's put it in parchment paper and wrapped and handed it to you. That's what I want. Don't remember what that Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dive episode was, but I want that.
So you want a corned beef sandwich?
I want me. I can go for a Reuben right now. I could love a Reuben right now.
Talking about Reuben, let's Thornton and Jimmy Vesey to the Leafs.
So we talked a little bit about Thornton.
Thornton, $700K for a year.
More or less, we talked with Thornton
That's part two.
with Dan about the impact he had on the franchise.
Number 97.
Apparently Jason Spezza offered 19 to him.
He did. However, 97.
Well, he does wear that with Team Canada because obviously it seems like there's always 5 guys that wear.
Does he
number
wear
19.
it with HC Davos?
I don't know. Look it up. He's back. He's playing in Davos, so he's trying to stay in shape, which is good.
Well, he's also a dual citizen
In Switzerland?
Sweden. Isn't HC Davos?
No, that's Swiss.
Sweden?
That's Swiss.
Swiss? Oh, well, he is number 97 for HC Davos.
There you go. Look at that. Joey Thornton, he's a guy that brings veteran presence.
Switzerland.
Kyle
Yeah,
Dubas is making this team tougher. And I know people are going to be like, it's the effect of, they need big players or whatever. They need tougher players. Hello? St. Louis in 2019. They had some big players, had some tough guys, and they won. Tampa Bay, always a skilled hockey.
What was the biggest thing that we had against the Leafs? Okay,
Lack of toughness.
Things.
Lack of toughness.
Organizational confidence. All of the young guys that don't have experience. Overpaid salaries and toughness.
And that's why.
Toughness being the big thing.
But here's the thing. No, look at Tampa. The Leafs always, they say, we want to be like Tampa. We want to be skilled. Well, guess what? The Lightning, they got rid of skill. Or pardon me, they sacrificed skill to get Blake Coleman, to get Barclay Goodrow, to get Patrick Maroon, Luke Shen. Those guys played big minutes for the Lightning in the playoffs, leading the Stanley Cup. And I'm pretty sure Kyle Dubas saw that, and he's like, maybe we should be like Tampa, but not the old Tampa, this Tampa. So they get TJ Brody. They get a guy like Joey Thornton. They get Wayne Train Simmons. They get all of these bigger guys.
They don't need Wayne Simmons.
They may be older. They may not be as fast, but they
Wayne
bring
Simmons
grit.
is irrelevant, though.
They bring grit. Well, yeah, look at the teams he's played on the last couple of years, Alex.
No, I'm talking about him as a player.
No, he's never irrelevant. He's a big guy in front of the net. He can play tough.
Him. I've never liked his play style.
Just because you just didn't like Philly.
No, it's not because I didn't like Philly. I just didn't like Wayne Simmons.
I like.
I don't think he's.
He was.
I don't think he's a viable option. I don't think he's worth.
He was annoying.
I don't
to play
think
against.
he's worth $1.5 million
for 1 year.
No,
I'm sorry. When we have Mitch Marner for how much? When you have John Tavares for how much?
Do we need to go over this conversation about how the first 3 guys on the forwards list on Cap Friendly for the Maple Leafs are far overpaid? John Tavares, far overpaid for far too long. Austin Matthews, I'd say he's overpaid, personally. Then again, I don't think one person should be making $11.634 AAV for the next 4 years.
Alex,
I don't think anybody needs that much money.
there are 13 players in the National Hockey League right now that are getting paid over $10 million a year.
And guess what? Do they deserve $10 million?
Their cap hit is at least over $10 million. Well, hold on. Connor McDavid.
Do they need that money, though?
It's not the whole. No. Alex, you're not going to get into the whole. No, because you want to know why? Agents and egos. That's what ruins it. Okay? So,
And all of these players got egos.
hold on.
Like mothers. Except for
The Leafs
Jason
are the only
Spezza and Joe
team
Thornton.
with 3. Chicago is the only team that has 2 because Taves and Kane signed for those dual $10.5 million contracts together. So, long story short, yes, the Leafs have a lot of money. So that's why getting guys that are cheaper but grittier is what they need to move forward.
Older.
Jimmy Vesey, I don't know. Jimmy Vesey was so gosh darn cocky. I can't go play for Nashville. There's no market there. They just made it to the finals. Nope, I got to go play in New York with the Rangers. Well, guess what? You end up in New York, the wrong New York, in Buffalo. Now you're in Toronto for nothing. I mean, $900K is more than minimum, but I don't know if this will be
It's basically nothing.
I don't know if it's a revitalization for him.
As far as hockey goes, it's nothing.
But I like the opportunity he's got. He's got a lot to prove. He's got to crack this lineup now. This is not a sure thing for Jimmy Vesey. He has to crack this
He's gonna
lineup.
make the lineup.
He'll play.
He's gonna make the lineup.
He may be a Tyler Ennis though.
No.
I don't see him as a full-time NHLer. That's just me.
3, 6, 9. Robertson's not going to be cracking the lineup. He's a 19-year-old.
Dude, you saw how good he was.
He ain't that good. Kerfoot
Mikheyev
is going to be okay.
Mikheyev's
Let's talk about the lineups of who's going to actually be on there. Matthews, Tavares,
We still have to get to, like,
Marner,
4 more.
Nylander, obvious picks. Kerfoot, meh. Hyman, yes, he's going to make the lineup. Simmons,
He's not going to play a full year.
he's not going to play a full year. Spezza and Thornton are going to probably split time.
Dude, have the old guy line. Spezza, Thornton, Wayne Train. The old man
Is
line.
that your shutdown line?
That is your shutdown line. They are dumping that puck and they're not back checking because none of them can skate.
All right, Trap, go.
Just have the big boys in there. Travis Boyd's listed on there because they need to fill it. And Mikheyev right now is in arbitration. He's asking for $2.5 million. I don't know.
If Nick Robertson wants to crack the lineup, he needs to go back to being what he's best at.
Shooting the puck like crazy.
Defense.
You're running with the dangle joke. No, I liked him. Listen, he only got 5 games to play, but he looked good in that preseason game against Montreal. He has to learn, but I like him. I really think he could be. I don't know if he's going to be an everyday guy, but I think he'll play a lot, especially with the very compressed schedule. You're going to have to put guys in and out of the lineup. That's why having guys like Robertson there can play huge, and guys like Trevor Moore, guys such as, am I missing someone here? Adam Brooks is another guy you'll see a lot more of. Pierre Engvall will be another guy. So there's a lot to go around here. Wait, did I say Pierre Engvall?
I don't think you're going to see a lot of Pierre Engvall tie. I don't think so.
Why not?
I think the Leafs are just getting too heavy.
Well, there's a.
They're
Here's the thing. He can play. He can play the grind. He can play the safe.
Tyler. This Leafs team is not with these additions.
I need to call Todd Crocker.
No, you don't need to call him. I'm just saying, with these additions, I do not believe that the Leafs are still that team where they can bring up guys and send them back down, back and forth. This is not that team anymore. They're getting, they are becoming, like other teams, too heavy, where you don't see a lot of movement between the Marlies and the Leafs, even though you're basically across the street from each other still.
Players, man. Mikko Lennon still has to come over. You have Liljegren and Rosen technically down in the minors, but you have them. Adam Brooks,
Marlies are going to look good whenever they start to play.
Igor Korshkov, Barabanov. Oh, man, this team's going to be good.
Yeah, they're going to be good for when they decide to play.
I know. That's the hard part in all this. I'm like, they're going to be good. Ugh.
So you know what? That's going to be a great, morning skate roster. There you go.
Black Aces roster. Hey, look at that, Alex. This is the last year Mikhail Grabowski will be on the books for $0 for his buyout.
Great. You know who's also on the books, but for 2 years?
Phil Kessel.
Phil Kessel.
$1.2 million.
$1.2 million worth of hot dogs.
Still less than Wayne Simmons. Just like Wayne was making 1.5. Phil's only 1.2.
Well, yes.
I'm just telling you the truth. I'm telling you the stats, man.
I'm just saying.
I'm
I
here
still
for
don't
the
like
facts.
Wayne Simmons. Move on
Wayne
here.
Train. Yep.
Patrick Marlowe and Matt Cheeto.
No, it's Nieto. It's Nieto.
I'm calling him Nito.
It's not correct.
Incognito.
I can call Dan back. I'm going to tell Dan to stop saying names wrong, Alex.
You gonna call your buddy Freach too?
I don't have...
Yeah, shut up. No, you don't have his number.
I can Facebook him.
Sure.
Freege. Hey, buddy.
San Jose.
The day we get Freege on the show is the day
$700,000 a year.
It's officially the day that we probably get taken off the internet.
We're not gonna be taken off the internet. We're gonna blow up.
We're just gonna be a massive, just like it's gonna make that meme ear screeching sound. Like, you know, whenever you watch those dumb meme videos where just all the sound just goes to whack. What you were just watching before the show today.
Yeah, the ear rape memes.
Yes, those. Yeah, that's what it's gonna sound like. It's gonna be Elliot Frazier, and then it's gonna go. It's gonna escalate.
No, there'll be a different TikTok trend to.
We're
to
not
that.
ever, and I mean
TikTok.
ever. Doing TikTok. Never gonna do it.
Moving on to Montreal, Tyler Toffoli, 4.25 for 4 years. Jake Allen signs a 2-year extension for 2.875 AAV. And Gallagher signs a 6-year extension, 6.5 mil AAV. Tyler.
Montreal.
Why?
It's gonna be a thing.
Why?
I don't know if they're gonna be the thing, but they may be a thing.
Tyler, they barely made it into a 2014 playoff.
They'll be competitive. I don't see them being the same kind of team, similar. Like I said, I have more faith in the future of Ottawa. I wouldn't say Detroit yet. I'm not quite sure.
Can I say something real quick?
No, I'm talking. I am talking. What?
I'm just saying, right now, I have more faith than Montreal in like 4 years than I do Montreal right now. You want to know why? Look at their picks for 2021. They have 1 pick in round 1, 2 picks in round 2, 3 picks in round 3, 3 picks in round 4, 3 picks in round 5. They got a lot.
They got a lot of picks. They have the Detroit Red Wings amount of picks, I believe, this year. But look at the team they kind of have. So you
The Detroit Red Wings amount of picks.
Well, not next year. I'm talking
Next year. They've got 3
This
round
year,
picks. Oh, yeah.
what's their? I don't know if it says. If you can look up how many they had this past draft. But Duran, if he can step up. Yes, they lost Max Domi, but Josh Anderson still can play if he's healthy. That's the problem with Josh Anderson. He's never been healthy. That's why I don't say he was excommunicated out of Columbus, but it wasn't a good fit for him. You bring in a guy like Tyler Toffoli, guy that has experience, guy that played some pretty big minutes for Vancouver last year. I liked him in that role with playing with the Canucks, but
he wasn't a shrimp on the Kings roster either.
No, and he played a big role in their cup team. Well, the 2014 Cup in particular, he actually was on the. No, he's not on the 2012 team. 2014 team, played a big role on it.
He was wasn't he? Was he on the brown line or on the brown line?
No, he was on the that 70s line. He was with Dwight King, Tyler Toffoli, and Tanner Pearson. That was that line, the big three, the number 70s or whatever. And so they played a really big role in that postseason. So you bring that experience in, and once again, not a big dollar amount for them, He understands his role, and is he going to be a guy that's going to replace a guy like Dale Weiss in the future? Probably. So that's a good move by Mark Bergevin. Jake Allen for 2 years. You know what? Montreal's had problems with backup goaltenders lately. Charlie Lindgren is starting to not pan out. Caden Primo is still too young in my eyes, so give him a couple more years in the American League. And well, they tried the whole thing with Keith Kincaid, and that didn't work. Alex, he went over. So
yeah.
So the move by Jake Allen, signing for 2 years, that gives Caden Primo a little more time to develop down in the minors with Laval, and then we'll see where he's at from there. I think Primo still has a great upside. When he came in with the Habs last year, he looked pretty good in his few games with Montreal. I like to think that maybe not a Thatcher Demko, but you could see that the right development is being taken with Primo. And I think the Habs realize that because Carey Price, despite his big, long contract, he won't be around forever. You're going to want a goaltender that's ready when he starts to dwindle a little bit. So Caden Primo is seemingly to be the goaltending prospect in Montreal, and that's why they did Larry. Let's get Jake Allen here for a couple of years, give Carey Price some nights off, because my goodness, he's not that young. He can't play 70 games, Alex, even though they're not going to play 70 games this year. But
No.
you know what I mean. And especially like we kept talking about with Vancouver.
There is a premium on goalie tandems, folks.
Yes, so Jake Allen and having a guy that can be a starter and Jake Allen. Yep.
Hey, guess what?
I was almost done there.
Okay, I'll let you finish.
Jake Allen and Carey Price, good tandem. Okay, go.
You know how? Let me get my mic nice and close. You know how you talk about how you called the Tampa Bay Lightning thing?
538 days before it happened.
You know how you called that thing?
Yep.
Guess who called a premium on goalie tandems and called for it and said that it was going to happen? Yeah. This guy in season 1 of the Keel Show.
If you can find it and clip it, I will.
I think I still have season 1 on my laptop here.
It's on YouTube.
Oh, well, I could do that as well.
We'll do it after the show.
Yes, I understand that. I'm going to do it after
or
the show.
Or all of a sudden start hearing like off. Like that was the funny thing about that whole meme
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, shuttle ages.
No, you weren't even that. You were just, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, shuttle ages. Welcome to the first episode of the Keel Show. I am Alex, along with the Insider of the Insiders, Tyler Keel. We have a great show today. So calm and whatever.
Was I?
Oh, no, you were awful. Like, that's why when that whole meme started, Alex, of the how it started and how it's going, it's like you and I in Nana's basement with two $20 mics and hooked up into your phone. You got to go to the playlist. Go playlist.
I'm going to go.
Go to the playlist.
I'm going to just go all the way down here.
No, you got to keep going.
Oh, my gosh.
You got you got to go back to that. It goes down.
It all goes down from here.
You don't play the sound.
Well, I'm not going to play the sound.
It's just
maybe I'll play the first.
You're still wearing the same
seconds.
toque, which is good. But then again, we got those toques. What 16, 17 season, right? Oh my, we're looking.
Oh my goodness! I was so nervous doing that one.
That was.
I was so nervous doing that first episode. My
gosh, that hair though. Was I still trying to play?
No. This was after.
Oh, this is when I started broadcasting. So I was done playing.
This was post lockdown.
I still had the hair though. Gosh.
No, you didn't. This was far past your hair. No, you were.
No, I mean I still had.
You were in recovery at this point.
I was in emotional recovery after this. Yeah, and you were like just. But hey, we are here now. We went from 10-minute shows off your phone to 2.5 hours here on 12 Ounce Sports.
10 minutes. It was half hours.
Well, it was getting half hours. That's why we started doing the podcast, because we realized.
It was half hours, and we tried to do 15 minutes, and we decided that it wasn't right. So then we just ended up doing 30-minute shows, and then we decided to go to a podcast, and we ran that for a little bit. We tried to do some video game shenanigans thing, but that didn't end up working out because you thought it was dumb.
You know, I said we have to distinguish the two brands, and you said this is your brand, Alex. You're the video game shenanigans guy. That's your brand, and you're like, I don't want to do it.
Well, because it was supposed to be
it was a thing. It wasn't a Keel Show banner, but it was two separate entities.
It was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be like WWE, but they were going to have, or WWF. They were going to have WWF and WCW all under one banner. But then they're like, this is stupid.
Whatever. Anywho, ha, and his merry men.
Brendan Gallagher. Hold on, I haven't got to Brendan Gallagher.
Sweet Jesus.
We got 15 minutes, Alex. We can do this.
Ow.
What are you, sunburned or something?
No, my pinched nerve.
You have a pinched nerve? What'd you do?
I've had a pinched nerve forever, man.
You gotta get the knot out.
Oh God, don't do that.
You gotta get some massage.
Sweet Jesus.
Get the elbow in there. Just
Jesus,
dig into that muscle.
Hebrew Christ.
Brendan Gallagher. I mean, this for him. This is pretty much Gallagher saying, "I'm a Montreal for life." Now, whether or not, because I believe it's a full no move clause for Brendan Gallagher for 6 years. Let me just make sure here. Signed through 2027. Modified. So no move clause, modified no trade clause. That is the clause. He submits a 6-team no trade list. So pretty much means, hey, Brendan, we're gonna trade you. How about, what is the 1/8 of, or well, what's 32 divided by 6?
Well, by 2026, $6.5 million is going to be buyout worthy. So let's just say that.
Well, hopefully, hopefully the dollar comes back up in the salary cap. So I'm really, I like it because he's the heart and soul guy. The fact that he's not the captain is really just because the fact that Shea Weber is there. So
Shea Weber doesn't do diddly squat.
he scored 3 goals in the playoffs,
He's there based off name recognition.
and so is Brendan Gallagher. But I like
Brendan Gallagher got popular there.
that is true.
I'm sorry. Who got messed up by Zdeno Chara?
Not Brendan Gallagher. That was Max Pacioretty. Pacioretty's the one that got
No, I'm
brained.
talking over the course of those series.
Not Brendan Gallagher.
Gallagher tried to get messed up.
Brendan
That's what I'm
Gallagher,
saying.
he went after him. So, but I like it. It's a great move for Montreal, solidifying just that core because the teammates like him, the franchise likes him, the fans like Brendan Gallagher. No matter if he's playing well, playing bad, everyone likes him. Mostly everyone. I mean, there are probably some detractors out there, but I like the contract. It's not a bad deal for a guy that's going to be there for a while.
And I hate it. Just to be contrary.
You just,
I
just like take devil's advocate.
Actually, no, Scott. I don't like it purely on the basis that it's so darn long, and it's not expensive, but my gosh,
What about expensive and long term, Alex? How about that?
I'm just saying.
I don't think there's been any contracts that have been signed.
9
in this
times
free
out of
agency.
10, it does not end up working for the team who signs the contract. I'm
Well,
just saying.
yeah, I know there's Jacob Markstrom 6x6, but there's that. I'm sure that's not the worst contract, Alex.
No, it's not.
Pushing you into that segue.
Alex Pietrangelo, $8.8 million for 7 years.
7.
You're dumb. Okay, let me just say
Let's
this.
just jump over to.
You're dumb, Google Translator. I'm going to look up all the ways I can say
You're dumb.
you are dumb in Google Translate.
So, as of right now, because that's why they got rid of Nate Schmidt. That was a lot of money that got taken off the books. Excuse me. So they're a lot closer to the cap ceiling.
Eres tanto.
That's in Spanish. Alex, just type in "you're dumb" and just flip the language.
Oh shoot! I totally could have. You know what?
You know what, Alex? You're a genius. Type that in 3 times. So Vegas, though, while Alex is trying to do it in like 10 different language.
I'm not even gonna try Icelandic.
Icelandic. He's like, it's,
Why does Russian look so weird?
I'm trying to
Give
think
me an easy one.
How about you do like French that has actual
To
letters?
say uno schiaccio. That's Italian.
It's Italian. Okay. So before Alex, if you're just gonna stop for the rest of us here, so I can get to Alex Pietrangelo.
I'll let you go for a bit.
Are you sure
A
about
hot
that?
sec. I'll let you go for a little
You're gonna
bit.
look for another one with actual letters.
Go. Just
No,
go.
Okay, Alex Pietrangelo signing for.
She's been dumb.
That's Dutch. Well, actually, I could call up Kelly Zoma and actually have her say it to make sure you say it right.
Swedish. Du are dum.
You are dumb. So it's literally saying you are dumb. Okay, so you done? Can I get to Alex Pietrangelo now?
Sure.
I only got 10 minutes, Alex. So, yes, this contract is stupid. Yes, the term is stupid. Yes, the amount of money is stupid. And yes, it's going to look bad in literally 2 years because he is 30 years old. He's not young by any stretch of the imagination. You still have Mark Stone for 9.5 through 2027. That contract looks dumb in 2 years. You have Max Pacioretty signed for 3 years. You can get by that. William Karlsson, it already looks bad. I mean, there's so many contracts right now that the previous regime and George McPhee signed, and now Kelly McCrimmon has dove into the pit of madness that is Las Vegas.
Has been given.
They're almost at $1 million in projected LTIR used. I don't know where's the LTIR going to though. Who can they? There's no one to give it to, unless you're gonna I mean, Derek Englund's off the books. You don't have to worry about him. What are you gonna say? Braden McNabb's broken both of his legs. What are you gonna have? Like some Vegas hitman go out there?
Scroll up a little bit.
So you can just look up Cat Friendly, Alex.
No.
You have Cat Friendly tab open right there. Just click Vegas. But so
To Cody Glass.
Cody Glass, well, that's an ELC. That contract's already signed. You'll see a lot of them, though, because they're going to have to get rid of some of these players. You just signed Chandler Stevenson. You can't get rid of him. Alex Tuck is 4.75 for 2020 through 2026. That contract cannot be moved. I mean, unless you're going to start getting rid of some smaller players like William Carrier, you're going to have to probably look at getting rid of him. Ryan Reeves, I know he's been a real heart and soul guy, but that's $1 million and $1.75 million that you need to get rid of. You signed Thomas Nosek for 1 year at 1.25. I know it's not a lot of money, guys, but that'd be putting him under the cap right now. Thomas Nosek hasn't done squat
Ty, what happens if the team goes over the cap at the start of the season?
They
They
get-
is over the cap.
They
at the
get
start of the
penalized. It was the problem with the Hawks. They get penalized in picks and cash, if I'm not mistaken. Because remember, the Canucks, I believe, are still suffering a cap penalty with the Roberto Luongo deal.
They are.
They are still, yes.
Because
So
Luongo retired, and that's why it was such a huge thing last year.
yes, so that's why these contracts sink. Yes, you're probably not going to lose Tuck. Marchessault, you're not going to get rid of. Riley Smith, he's got so the guys that have no move clause probably or modified no trade clause of some sort: Stone, Pacioretty, Carlson, Riley Smith, Marchessault, and Pietrangelo. The rest of the defensemen are up for grabs. So Shea Theodore, 5.2 through 2025. Alec Martinez, 1 more year at $4 million. Braden McNabb, 2.5, but that may be a tougher contract to move.
Alec Martinez paid $4 million because he scored the game winner in the Cup final.
The LA Kings had a lot of dumb contracts too. Here's the difference between LA and Vegas. Vegas is good now. LA is not because LA is suffering from all those bad contracts. So how long, Alex, before you have to start giving away tickets in casinos in Vegas? If they don't figure it out, if Kelly McCrimmon doesn't make a move to get under the cap and try to find actual players that can play for cheap, they'll be doing that in about 3 years. Seattle is going to look like the better expansion team because they'll actually develop and actually become good and not overpay players unless they take on bad contracts. But that's neither here nor there. He signed that, by the way, in December of 2014 as an extension, did Alec Martinez. So, yes.
You know what they're going to do?
What?
They're going to do if you buy a ticket to a Raiders game, you may get you get entered in a lottery to go to an NHL game. That's how bad it is.
No, I
That's
think
the
no,
difference.
no. It would be
Actually, no,
It'd be a
the
buy
contrary.
ticket. It'd be a buy ticket to a Knights game, and you may have a chance to go get tickets to a Raiders game.
No, it'd be for LA. If you buy a LA Rams ticket, then you get.
No, you go to a Kings game, then you get a chance for Rams. I'd rather go to a Rams game right now. You see that stadium? That looks
No, I'm
pretty-
saying you'd get a Kings ticket for free because nobody's paying to go to those games.
Oh, that's true. Okay, I'll give you that.
You know, the only guy who's paying to go to those games is Burt Kreischer and Snoop Dogg, and they get in for free.
But say they're not paying squat.
They're paying in time.
Snoop Dogg in appearances, they're paying them.
They're getting paid.
Hey Andre, I know you're getting like $10 million right now, but if you could just give us some of that so we can pay Snoop Dogg to make an appearance. We would like to have a sellout this Friday night. Yeah, if you could do that, thanks. Because we got all the heck, the Lakers are champions now. But then again, they probably won't have fans this year anyways because it's all different. LeBron James. Oh yeah, the Lakers won the championship, by the way. Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares? Pietrangelo, the contract sucks. It's worse than the Markstrom contract, and I say that in the nicest way possible because I think Markstrom can do some stuff in Calgary. I think he can solidify the goaltending position there for a couple of years. Pietrangelo,
Like they tried to do with Mike Smith.
he was okay. The Flames team around him played bad in that series against Colorado. You cannot tell me any different.
I'm just
you
saying.
cannot tell me any different. And the same thing with Cam Talbot.
Mike Vernon
Cam Talbot.
wannabe.
Okay, the mask was cool. Stop it.
No, it was not. It was
It
ugly
was
as
cool.
hell.
It was cool.
It was ugly.
It was cool.
Ugly.
I'm not letting you tell me any different. It was cool. It is the dumbest contract that's been signed this year. But they're like, oh, he was worth that kind of money though. Yes, but for that long, for a team that's already in a cap crunch in Vegas, and they've already come out and said, Kelly McCrimmon, they've already come out and said, that's our tandem, Fleury and Leonard. $12.5 million, excuse me, right? Might say it right? 12.5? Nope, just 12. $12 million for at least the next 2 seasons.
Almost tied for the same amount of money that Florida's paying. Almost tied.
Well, Bobrovsky asked for 10. Well, oh yes, because
Because he's got 10 by himself, and then they've got...
that other goaltender.
You're going to tell me in 5
Chris
seconds.
Drager.
Granger.
Making only $850. So technically less.
So they're almost tied.
Oh, they're still paying Scott Darling. Oh, right, because they took on that contract
Yes.
from Carolina when
Yes.
they traded for Vincent Trocheck.
Yes.
Remember when they were sellers last year?
Oh, yes.
Man, Florida should be good, man. I look at this team like they
They're
should.
not.
They got Radko Gudas, Mackenzie Weegar's an RFA. They can take care of that. They got Huberdeau, Barkov still, Patrick Hornquist they acquired. Brett Connolly's a little older, but Frank Vetrano still got some good giddy up. They signed Winberg for a year. Noah Achari can be something. And yes, you have Sergei Bobrovsky through 2026, but I think he can have a better year. I like Florida. But very dumb contract signed by the Knights, but it seems like that's the trend now because guess what they do in Vegas, Alex? They are looking for sevens, rolling on the craps table. They're going for it. They're going.
Still a crappy alternate
They're-
jersey.
Hey,
Four
the
minutes
gold,
left on the show here, Ty.
the gold sweater. Hey, you know what, Alex?
I
will
don't
say,
like it.
I will
don't
say
like it at
this. Can we just be happy that that was not going to be their original sweater?
True.
Because you and I both agree that it was.
I know.
When we saw that sweater, I'm like, oh, that's what. And I said it on the show. That's what we thought it was going to be at first.
That is
because-
true. 4 minutes left here on the show. Quick thing before we finish this thing up. Name your favorite player that didn't get enough love from your team's fan base. Tyler, you represent the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Well, hold on. Who are you going to represent? You represent Carolina?
I will represent the Detroit Red Wings.
Okay. That did not get enough love from the fan base. You mean, okay, now hold on.
Let's say
Because I'm not going to say Jake Gardner because I
Rick.
gave it to Jake Gardner as well. I could say Jake Gardner on the face of the question. Where's that from, Alex? Where's that from?
Hockey Feed.
On Facebook. Okay.
Name your favorite player that didn't get enough love from your team's fan base.
Enough love because they hated him, or just enough love because
Enough love, like-
underappreciated.
Sure.
Okay.
It has to be a favorite of yours, so you can't have been.
Well,
bashed.
the first couple of years I was a Leafs fan, Nazem Kadri for sure. But then again, I think that was management's problem. Clark MacArthur had so much more potential before they got rid of him. I'm just going back to the early 2010s because I don't think there's a single player that's an extreme with every player on this team now, with the Leafs now. It's either you
What about
love him or you hate him. There's no, this guy. I mean, maybe Connor Brown. Connor Brown, and that's why I was bummed to see him leave because I knew he had so much more potential, but I just knew it was not going to fit.
Lupul.
But Lupul was a big-time player. That's why the buyout was them having to buy him out and keeping him on LTIR was such a big deal because he was the guy that put up big numbers for a couple of years, and they gave him that money, and then his back decided to go. But we got I'll go with Connor Brown. That'll be my final answer because we got to get going here before talking minors.
Connor Brown.
I'm gonna go downtown Connor Brown. Detroit Red Wings, Alex.
Detroit Red Wings. I would have to say Jordan Tutu.
But he came in when they were bad, though. That's the problem. I'm trying to
Underappreciated. He did a lot for that team.
He did a lot for the Griffins, I would say.
No, for the Wings. He did a lot for the Wings.
He may have.
I would say Tutu. Just because I could think of him off the top of the head and we only got 2 minutes left.
Send him home, Alex.
Coming up next here on 12 Ounce Sports, talking minors with the Rando. He's going to be talking about the Fed, the Federal Prospects Hockey League, the Tennessee Titans, and the Atlanta Braves.
He asked why do they make them so sad. I don't know why the Braves make you sad. We're Leafs fans. We don't get sad here.
Of course you do.
Shut up. Well, I'm just trying to say I don't get it. But
We will see you next Monday.
hashtag TKS.
Hashtag TKS at The Keel Show on Twitter and Facebook. Make sure to get involved in the conversation so we can answer your questions and talk to you about what you got to say. Or Tyler. I am Alex Keel. We will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Jazz hands. Jazz hands? Okay, we should probably say go. Goodbye.